Good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. Under my agenda tonight, I have the presentation. And we have a presentation from the Homestead Air Reserve Base here. Thank you.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is James Frickle. I'm the Vice Commander for Homestead. Been here just a couple months, so it's a pleasure to be here. We wanted to take the time and ask Councilman Shelley to come down. We heard there's an approaching transition, and so we have something for you.
Colonel Frickle is presenting Councilman Shelley with a beautiful lithograph of the Mako's F-16 and a beautiful letter of appreciation. For 16 years, Councilman Steve Shelley has been steadfast supporter of Homestead Air Reserve Base and the military mission, beginning with his time on the Planning and Zoning Board and continuing as a member of the City Council. Steve Shelley has always spoken up on behalf of the over 3,500 men and women who serve at the base. He has worked continuously to prevent incompatible development near the installation, helping to ensure mission sustainment and clearing the way for future military growth. During his tenure, he became respected for his integrity, wisdom, foresight, and even-temperedness. So today, the 42nd Fighter Wing thanks Councilman Shelley for his patriotism, his service, and most of all, for his friendship. Thank you.
I just want to thank you guys. This means a lot to me, to be up here. And you make a lot of tough decisions, I think, as a council person. You get elected, you try to do the right thing. You never expect to necessarily be thanked for it. But it is very nice when you guys are able to come up here and acknowledge some of the efforts that we take. Sometimes you take tough stands. Sometimes you make decisions that a lot of people don't like. So this means a lot to me. So thank you guys very much for taking the time and coming up here and giving me this. So this will look very good on my wall. So thank you very much.
Congratulations, Councilman Shelley. And that concludes my presentation.
Well, there's nothing further then. The regular council meeting will commence at 6 p.m. Thank you all. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'd like to call the City of Homestead City Council meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, October 20th, 2021, and it is 6 p.m. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Fletcher.
Here.
Councilwoman Bailey.
Here.
Councilman Roth.
Here.
Councilman Shelley.
Here.
Councilwoman Avila.
Here.
Vice Mayor Faircloth Staggers. Mayor Losner.
Here. Thank you. Before we proceed into the order of the agenda business, I'd like to take a moment and do a special presentation down at the podium. Now, do I see, oh, trophies. I thought those were musical instruments. I thought we were going to be serenaded tonight. Come on in, guys, have a seat. We're just getting started. good to have a full house. It's less echo. You're our human. I'm good. Human acoustical panels. Wow, is there any end in sight? Okay, no. Come on in, we don't bite. Contrary to what you might see in your mailbox, none of us bite. Anybody else? We got plenty of seats. Okay. Well, thank you. We were just about to deviate from the agenda at the beginning and have a special presentation. Typically, the kind of presentation we're going to do is performed at a State of the City address. And we have this little thing called the pandemic and the sun, the moon, and the stars, and the mask mandates and the surges. It just wasn't in the cards for a State of the City address to be held, and as this is the last council meeting of this term, I wanted to take the opportunity to make this very special and deserving presentation tonight. Before I do so, I'd like to ask Homestead's own John and Michelle Moss to come join me at the podium. Thank you all for coming. The award of a key to the city is a tradition dating back to medieval times, when the leaders of gated cities bestowed a key in recognition and honor of trusted friends of a city and its residents. The presentation of a key to the city is one of the few privileges reserved solely to the mayor. And it's my heartfelt belief that the significance of a key to the city should not be diminished or cheapened, and thus should be reserved for the most deserving. John and Michelle Moss embody the highest ideal of selfless and trusted community service. Their history of volunteerism spans five decades. Yeah, think about it. I don't like that math either, but five decades from their involvement in their kids' schools, their church, not-for-profits, Homestead AYSO, and numerous boards and committees. But most notably, the Kiwanis Club of Homestead, where John was a member for nearly 30 years. During his membership in Kiwanis, John always took the lead in organizing the Dolphin Days fishing tournament and chairing the iconic Good Friday community prayer breakfast. While it can be rightly said that John was oftentimes the face of these events and the Kiwanis Club, it was always with the steadfast support of Michelle, who is busy behind the scenes doing the organizing and bookkeeping that made these events not only a financial success, but preserved them as an integral thread in the fabric of our community. As an attorney who's practiced in Homestead for over 35 years, that makes you old, John has established himself not only as the hardest working and knowledgeable professional in our community, but also he is the penultimate example of professionalism, honesty, and ethical behavior. Michelle has been at his side throughout his career as an indispensable part of the practice. John and Michelle Moss have not only given generously of their time throughout the years, but freely shared their success. Their genuine and widespread philanthropy is unmatched. And in this era of superficial service by selfie, John and Michelle Moss represent the true spirit of community service and commitment, not for self-promotion or business development, but because of and through their commitment to serve and share with this community. It is my privilege and honor to award a key to the city to John and Michelle Moss in recognition and gratitude for their commitment and service to Homestead. John and Michelle, it is my pleasure to present to you a key to the city of Homestead, Florida. I'll read from the language here. John and Michelle Moss embody the highest ideal of selfless community service. They have shared their time and talents and generosity given of their success throughout Homestead. The Mosses continue to represent the spirit of service and commitment. Without their labor, the fabric of our city would be far less enduring. This key of the city is given in recognition, honor, and gratitude to John and Michelle as true and trusted friends of the city of Homestead and its residents this 20th day of October, 2001.
This was definitely a surprise. All I know is I was called by the clerk and said, show up at 6 o'clock, and I knew none of my clients had matters before the city, so I had no idea what was going on until I started seeing people show up. We have loved living and being a part of the city of Homestead. We don't do it for recognition. As a matter of fact, I hate recognition. I stay away from these things as much as I can. This is amazing, and I really do appreciate it. I appreciate the honor in that. I consider everybody in Homestead to be a friend, and we just, try to do the best day by day to do what's right so that we can grow this community. And I love seeing the soccer kids here because for years we were dedicated with AYSO soccer and took teams to Weston and all over for games and for championships and stuff. And so my children have been where you are, and this is the greatest thing that you guys could be doing out there, and it's wonderful. Thank you to the parents and coaches and everybody involved in that, because these kids are going to grow up just wonderful as a result of what you're doing. So I want to thank the city. I want to thank everybody here. And like I said, I was just extremely shocked. So anyway, I know you shouldn't
Our
really
thanks
say
are to
anything.
you. And one more thing, many times we issue proclamations declaring it, somebody's day at Homestead. But typically, it's that day, and we stand here at night and do that, and your day's already over. So I want to also, and this kind of repeats what some of my comments tonight, but tomorrow, take full advantage of it, make sure your staff and clients and friends know that I've declared tomorrow, October 21st, as John and Michelle Moss Day in Homestead. Thank you all. All right. Madam Manager, are there any additions, deletions, or deferrals?
No, Mr. Mayor, there are not.
All right. Next item, tab 1, the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Moved by Councilman Roth. Second by Councilwoman Bailey. All in favor? Any opposed? Next item. Mr. White?
Yes, Mayor. This is the quasi-judicial section of your agenda. Please be advised that the following items on the agenda are quasi-judicial in nature. If you wish to comment upon any of these items, please indicate the item number you would like to address when the announcement regarding the quasi-judicial item is made. An opportunity for persons to speak on each item will be made available after the applicant and staff have made their presentations on each item. Swearing in, all testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish to either be cross-examined or sworn, your testimony will be given its due weight. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the council to ask questions of staff or witnesses on their behalf. The full agenda packet on each item is hereby entered into the record. Persons representing organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak for the organization. Further details of the quasi-judicial procedures may be obtained from the clerk. In accordance with Code Section 2-591, any lobbyist must register before addressing the council on any of the following items. At this time, council members must disclose any ex parte communications concerning any items on the quasi-judicial agenda this evening.
Councilman Shelley.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I had a conversation with the applicant on tab 5, as well as saw a presentation and spoke with the applicant on tab 6, 7, and 8.
Councilman Fletcher.
Mr. Mayor, I've had communications on tabs 5 through 8, as well as legislative matters 10 and 11.
Vice Mayor.
Yes, I've had previous conversations with the applicants for tab 6, 7, 8.
Councilman Roth.
The same, thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Bailey.
The same for me, previous conversation.
Thank you. Councilwoman Avila.
Same, Mayor, thank you.
Same for me as well, tabs 5 through 8. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, I'd ask the clerk to swear in any persons who wish to testify on any quasi-judicial item. So anyone in the audience who's wishing to speak this evening on any of the quasi-judicial items this evening, if you could stand, raise your right hand to be sworn in by the clerk.
Do you hereby swear or affirm that you will tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God? Thank you. You may be seated.
First item this evening is tab 4. It's a final order of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting a certificate of use requested by SF Markets, LLC, to permit the sale of beer and wine for off-premises consumption in conjunction with the operation of a grocery store located at 2631 Northeast 10th Court, as legally described in Exhibit A, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Mr. Corradino.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The staff recommends approval of the proposed certificate of use for the sale of beer and wine for off-premises consumption in conjunction with the grocery store. The applicant is developing a supermarket, and they intend to occupy about 21,000 square feet of commercial retail space within the Homestead Pavilion Shopping Center. The certificate of use has been reviewed with Chapter 3 of our City of Code, which regulates the sale of alcoholic beverages, and Chapter 3(6)(a)(2), which has location restrictions for such. We are recommending approval of this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any initial questions from council? Hearing none, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience or online wishing to speak on this matter? Anyone online? Anyone in the audience? All right, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion for approval. Moved by Councilwoman Bailey. Seconded by Councilman Roth. Are there any final comments? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Roth,
Yes.
Councilman Fletcher,
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila,
Yes.
Councilman Shelley,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bailey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fairclough Staggers,
Yes.
Mayor Losner.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Tab 5, Mr. White.
Yes, tab 5 is the second reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving the rezoning requested by PMG Asset Services, LLC, of an approximately 13.63 acre parcel of land from restricted retail commercial B1 zoning district to hotel, motel, and institutional R4 zoning district for property generally located north of Laura Lane, east of Northeast 12th Avenue, south of Northeast 8th Street, Campbell Drive, and west of Northeast 18th Avenue, as legally described in Exhibit A, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This is second and final reading.
Thank you. Mr. Cordino?
Yes, sir. The staff's recommending that the mayor and council approve the proposed ordinance requesting the rezoning from B1, from restricted retail B1 to hotel, motel, and institutional R4. The applicant intends to develop an assisted living facility consisting of 84 assisted living units on 158 158 independent living units and 24 memory units for a total of 266 units on the vacant 13.63 acre parcel of land. Upon the approval of the rezoning, we're recommending approval.
Thank you. Are there any initial questions or comments from council on this item? Is there anyone online wishing to speak on this matter? Is the applicant present? Anyone on behalf of the applicant present? Good evening.
Good evening. George Sapero, Prime Group, 4651 Sheridan Street. Can you hear me? Hollywood, Florida, 33151. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them. You've already heard the report. It pretty much speaks for itself. We're very excited to finally get this property has been vacant a long time, gets this project on it.
Thank you. Stand by in case there are any questions or comments from the public that you'll need to address. All right. Is there anyone online? No? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this matter? All right. None appearing. Then I'll close the public hearing. Are there any final questions or comments from council? None appearing. I'll entertain a motion for approval. Moved by Councilman Fletcher, seconded by Councilman Roth. Any further questions or comments? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Fletcher? Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Councilman Shelley?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bailey?
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Faircloth Staggers?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate it. All right. Next item, tab 6, Mr. White.
Yes, Mayor Council. So tab 6, 7, and 8 all pertain to the same proposed project for a new residential subdivision. I could introduce each of these items. You could collectively discuss, have a public hearing, and then take a separate vote in sequential order if that's desired.
Let's proceed in that fashion. Thank you.
All right, so tab 6 is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting a variance request from section 30-159A parking of the City Code of Ordinances to waive the requirement that each two-story townhome dwelling unit provide an attached storage area that is at least 40 square feet accessible from the exterior required for the development of a 231 dwelling unit residential subdivision generally located north of Southwest 336th Street, east of Southwest 172nd Avenue, south of the Florida Turnpike Extension, and west of South Liberty Avenue, as legally described in Exhibit A and providing for an effective date. Tab 7 is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting site plan approval requested by 4 Acres Properties 4 LLC, a Florida limited liability company, for the development of a 231 dwelling unit residential subdivision on an approximately 25.72 acre parcel of land, generally located north of Southwest 336th Street, east of Southwest 172nd Avenue, south of the Florida Turnpike Extension, and west of South Liberty Avenue, as legally described in Exhibit A, and providing for an effective date. And finally, tab 8 is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting tentative plat approval requested by 4 Acres Properties for the development of a 231 dwelling unit residential subdivision on an approximately 25.72 acre parcel of land, generally located north of Southwest 336th Street, east of Southwest 172nd Avenue, south of the Florida Turnpike Extension, and west of South Liberty Avenue, as legally described in Exhibit A, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Mr. Cordino?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Staff recommends the mayor and council deny the proposed resolutions requesting the variance to waive the 40 square foot storage area for residential townhomes. The site plan and the tentative plat for the 25-acre property located at that location. The applicant for ACES intends to develop a 231-unit townhome residential subdivision. If approved, the project requires a transportation proportionate fair share mitigation agreement and contribution to the city in the amount of about $60,461 for an improvement to the northbound approach to the intersection of Southwest 162nd Avenue and Campbell Drive. Additionally, the project requires a tri-party agreement between the applicant, the city, and Miami-Dade County Public Schools for a public school concurrency payment in the sum of $542,942 paid to the school district directly. The parcel is zoned residential townhome RTH with a future land use designation map of medium density residential, or MRU. City Code Section 30-457 maximum density establishes that the zoning districts which implement the medium density, the MRU, and the future land use category of the comprehensive plan, including but not limited to townhouses, allow up to 8 dwelling units per acre. A bonus density of up to 10 dwelling units per acre may be available subject to the demonstration of compliance with the performance criteria established in Section 30-461 of this division. There's two different density bonuses there. I believe that only one has been applied for at this point in time. The site plan is designated with the expectation that the project complies with one of the density bonuses in there to gain an additional 31 unit for the townhouse units shown on the site plan. So the pursuant to Section 30-457, the proposed property permits only up to 8 units per acre or approximately 200 townhome dwelling units, whereas the applicant is proposing 9 units for 231. The applicant has also filed applications for the establishment of a community development district and a special taxing district with the county, which would need to come before the city at a future date before they were able to issue building permits. Same is if approved, the property needs to comply with the conditions in the site plan package, which haven't been complied with to date. And those were the things that we conditioned way back in August as we were waiting for them to get through with their other things so they could get to the council meeting. Those things that haven't been complied with still have to be complied with. So with that, that's a summary of the application, and we were recommending denial.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the applicant? Thank you.
I inadvertently hit the button. I'm beginning to think that our soccer kids are here on the wrong night. Maybe I'm just wrong. A lot of awards out there, not like my childhood, which was lots of participation trophies. So Graham Penn, Burkhauer, Del Fernandez, Larkin, 200 South Biscayne Boulevard. We're here tonight with a very exciting, in our opinion, townhouse project. A townhouse development of a quality that this city has not seen, in my opinion, ever. Team with me tonight, Steve Shiver, representing the property owner, Andrew Starr, our architect, Joaquin Vargas, our transportation engineer. So I'm going to take you through the introduction, and I'm going to turn it over to Andrew. He'll talk about the architecture, and then we'll take you through answer any of the questions you may have. This is the overall plan that's in front of you. As you can see, the overall design, it focuses on a central boulevard coming off of 336th Street that goes all the way through the property to a central amenity zone that I'm going to talk a lot about, because this is the best amenity that I've ever seen in a townhouse development anywhere in South Florida, especially for 231 townhouses, a beautiful 1-acre assemblage of recreational space available to these residents. So our property, 25 acres, as Mr. Cordino noted. To the north of us is the Homestead extension of Florida's Turnpike. To our south is mostly Florida City. We have it's the Cedar at Keys Gate townhouse, which is on our southeast corner. Cedar at Keys Gate is a 10 unit to the acre townhouse development that is under construction right now. And as I belabor this, but I want you to pay attention to Cedar's amenity too in comparison to what we're providing. It is nowhere close. Our development is way above and beyond anything that we've seen. The other thing I wanted to focus on when we're talking about the community and the urban design is current access to recreational space for anyone in this neighborhood. 336th Street is partially developed, as we know, but there is no way for a kid, for example, who wanted to go to Audubon Park or Roscoe Warren Park to actually get there safely right now. So right now, we have to take care of our residents for recreational purposes, our families within the development. I think we really have. And Mr. Peter Adrian has joined us, who's the property owner. As Mr. Corradino noted, future land use designation is medium density residential. We are bin zoned townhouse for the last 12 years or so when the previous development came through. That previous development is in front of you, approved in 2009. That project had 205 townhouses in it. You can see a very large lake in the middle of it. But when we talk about what this plan brought to the community, you add up, there's 2 little tot lots that serve the recreational uses of all these potential residents, totaling 13,000 square feet in size, right, spread across the community. The lake was not generally accessible. There was one place you could look at it. But again, for the future residents, the families of that community, it really was a low amenity environment. So our requests: site plan approval, obviously, tentative plat approval. We've got one minor variance that I'm going to explain. And later in your agenda, as Mr. Corradino noted, and I think Mr. White noted as well, 2 items related to mitigation for this project. First is the traffic proportionate share mitigation agreement that we've agreed to with staff for $60,000 to the city. And the second one, which I don't think you've seen in recent history, is the tri-party mitigation agreement for schools under the uniform interlocal agreement that applies countywide. We are agreeing to provide the school board with almost $750,000 to mitigate for school impacts. So that agreement, of course, we would ask you upon the approval of the application, assuming that happens, to approve those 2 agreements as well. So we really have in this overall package dealt with any of the impacts of this project from a traffic point of view, and most importantly, of course, from a school's point of view. So basics again: 231 total townhomes, just under 9 units to the acre. How do I get to 9 units to the acre? We've already agreed and we've filed the necessary materials to be designated silver green certified under the Florida Green Building Coalition. As Mr. Corradino noted, that's one of the ways you get to 1 more unit per acre. So this will be a green development on top of being a fantastically designed and amenitized development. And then, of course, our amenities: very large clubhouse, large pool, and I'm going to bore you with that in a second, but a unique, and this is relevant to our soccer friends, a 26,000 square foot recreation field that will be eligible youth soccer for the residents and the kids in this neighborhood. So, take you through some of the pretty pictures. This is the main entrance, that main boulevard that goes up through the entire core of the development. You can see on the right-hand side, we've got the pedestrian and the bicycle path that meanders through. Here's a drone view of that same boulevard. You can see it goes straight up to the center to where the amenity is. This is one of the views of the amenity, and I'm going to take you through it in a little bit of detail. So we have in front of us, we've got a 4,500 square foot clubhouse building. We also have a 8,000 square foot pool area cabanas. We have 800 square foot gazebo you can see there next to those cars. And here comes the really fun stuff. Just under 4,000 square foot basketball court. We also have, again, this is looking south, looking at the amenity building. You can see the aforementioned soccer field on the left. And here's the overall layout. On the bottom right is the dog park, dedicated dog park for the community. And then there is that soccer field. So a regulation youth soccer field is able to be put in this development. Again, nothing that I have ever seen in South Florida for townhouse development has come close to this level of creating this accessible community amenity for all the residents. So what does that mean in reality? Instead of kids having to drive to a park, be driven to a park, or try to get on their bicycles and try to get to a park, they have an access for they can walk or they can ride their bikes to a fantastic amenity right in the middle of their community that's a safe way to get there in less than 5 minutes. So you can, even the slowest kid can get from any of their homes to this park within 5 minutes. So we think it's going to be a fantastic amenity for the families that will be living in these units. And that's what we're trying to help provide those homes for those folks. Another view of the soccer amenity. And here's our dog park. Again, another important element, in my opinion, especially for a townhouse development, being able to exercise your dogs in a large area where they can run around and get all their energy out. You're not having to rely on the streets or just walking up and down the sidewalk. You have a place for that to play. So this is the part of the presentation that I asked Mr. Starr to come up and take you through the architecture. As he will show you, the architecture has been designed to be clean, modern, and provide interest on all sides of the building, so it's avoiding monotony in design. Andrew?
Good evening. Andrew Starr with Pascual Perez Collision, Starr and Associates, 1330 Northwest 84th Avenue, Doral, Florida. So what you're looking at now on the screen is the elevation of one of the townhome buildings. Several things inform, when we're designing an elevation. One would be the floor plans, and the other would be the site plan. For this project, we have 4 different models, ranging different sizes from 1,600 to 2,100 square feet, 3 and 4 bedrooms. What that does is it allows us to create an elevation with a lot of movement, different roof planes, so that we're not just repeating 1 or 2 models, creating a flat architecture. The site plan influenced our architecture because, like Graham mentioned, we've created the central spine with the 10-foot multi-use pass on the side. When we did that, we didn't want to have a garage-dominant architecture facing that, or to have cars crossing a pedestrian path. So in order to create life along that boulevard, we created a side entry unit, corner unit. So a lot of townhome development, you won't see the banding and the materials carried out on the sides. Here we have an entry. We have 3 or 4 more windows than you would normally have. We've carried out the banding and the material, which we've used stacked stone to the sides. And I also want to mention the rears. We've added balconies to the backs. So in essence, we have a 4-sided architecture. As far as the style, Graham mentioned that it's a modern with clean lines. We've called it a transitional style, which is a contemporary style that recalls traditional architecture. So we have cleaned up the lines, but we're recalling traditional architecture with the use of stone, with the use of the pitched roof, concrete tiles. I want to mention that the windows are all impact. There will be stone around all the entrances. And we've used earth tones. So even though we're in a more modern style, these buildings will tie in with the surrounding community. And lastly, I want to mention that we have this We have the recreational area, which Graham mentioned, and the previous site plan had a lake. So we've eliminated that danger of a lake for young kids, and we've provided them with a recreational area and a soccer field. With that, I'll turn it back over to Graham.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm going to click through some of the more renderings just to show you what Andrew was talking about the play in the facades and the 360 element of the design. This is, again, a typical street. And just to be clear, this project, when we initially filed it, had a series of variances in it. We're down to a single variance that I'll talk about. So every townhouse is set back properly. Every townhouse has all the necessary elements under your code, except for our minor variance. Here you can see the changes in the materiality, where the stone is used in different places on different units. So to create that play and movement, you can see again the change in plane on the building as well. See it from the other direction. And this is another element that I know I keep harping on this, but this is the side entrance unit that is in every one of our building types. So that allows that end unit, which in a traditional townhouse development tends to be a dead-looking box, to be activated, to be something that's part of the community, and again, softens that entire look. So you don't have a dead end on any of these buildings except when they're up against each other, basically. So when you have it on the street, you get that side entrance, which again, I think is a great innovation in this design. So units, I'll go through them quickly. Our smallest unit, and of course I'm sure you can't see any of that, it doesn't look very clear, but the smallest unit is a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. That's 1649 under air, so just under 1,700 square feet. All these units are large, so that's the smallest. So it's a 3-bedroom, 2.5. Second one, unit B, is 3 bedrooms, 3.5 bath. That's just under 17 again. C is 4 bedrooms, 3.5 bath. That's 1,746 square feet. And then the biggest, unit D, is 4 bedrooms plus a den and 3.5 baths, 1,800 square feet under AC. So these are generously sized units on the appropriate sized lots with a gigantic amenity in the center of this project. So, the variance requests. As you all know, there is a requirement inserted in the code that requires a 40 square foot detached storage space, or actually included in accessible from the outdoors on every townhouse project. Now that provision was put in place when the code was revised in the late aughts, and really what it looks like is that was designed to deal with shutters, for hurricane shutters, elements like that where you could not have space to put it. Of course, as Andrew told you, this development, like most modern developments, has 100% hurricane windows, so shutters aren't necessary. So we're proposing to, instead of providing that glorified closet, and of course that closet, what does it do? That closet has to go somewhere on the back, right? You have to put it somewhere to have a door on it, so it's either on the front of your house or the back of your house, and it's taking up living space, right? You're telling a family, well, we'd rather have 40 square feet devoted to a closet, right, that you have to access from the outside. So we think it's preferable to provide, and we're agreeing to provide this in every unit, a elevated storage solution in each garage, which will far exceed overall, when you talk about the upper area and the lower area, that 40 square feet. So we don't have shutters to worry about. If we're worrying about any other elements that are necessary, they can be accommodated here inside the garage. So we think that the public policy suggests that 40 square feet is really not something in this day and age we should be moving forward with. Almost finally, green building. So as I noted at the beginning, we have provided the materials to the department, requesting that we obtain an additional unit per acre based on the project acquiring silver designation under Florida Green Building Coalition. As you can see, this is an excerpt from our analysis that was provided as part of the application, where we believe we can absolutely meet that silver and exceed it. So the requirements under the code are to have your professional who does the site planning be accredited, who Mr. Pasquale and his team are. We have to provide a completed checklist at this point, which we've done. We have to register the project with the relevant agency, which of course we've done as well, and provide a written narrative about how we're going to get there. So we are confident that we can get to silver and make this project an even better asset to the overall community. So the final slide. Again, as I belabored it, we think that this is the most forward-looking townhouse development to come in front of the city in a long time. It provides for, at the edge of the city, right where we are at the edge of Florida City, an amenity package that lets every one of those resident families recreate at home, right? They don't have to get in a car. They don't have to drive to a park. They will have a funded, gigantic recreational amenity in their homes that their kids can ride their bikes to, that they can walk their dog to, that they can have a quality of life that far exceeds what you would have in other developments. So with that, we were here for any questions you may have. I'd ask for your approval tonight of our 3 current zoning items, and then at the appropriate time, the 2 resolutions related to the proportionate share for traffic mitigation, as well as the $740,000 to our friends at the school board. Thank you, and we're here for questions.
Thank you. So let me go to council first to see if they have any initial questions or comments on this cluster of applications. And I don't mean cluster in a bad way. This group of applications.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Have to choose our vernacular carefully. All right. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this matter? Anyone online? Okay. Councilwoman, did you have a question?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Could you clarify again the adjustments that you made inside the garage to accommodate the request for the variance?
Sure. So what we're agreeing to do, Councilwoman, is obviously we have code-compliant garage, and we're providing an elevated storage solution that has, as you can see, that guy's put lots of stuff up and these hanging things on this system that will provide far more than 40 square feet when you count both the top and the bottom. So that's what's agreed to in these plans. And if we need a condition related to that, we would agree to that as well.
Thank you. And with the mention of the CDD during your reading of the application, does that essentially make the soccer field available and accessible to the public through memberships to the CDD?
A client might tell me I'm wrong, but the idea is that the soccer field is for the residents of the community. That's what it's for. And the CDD, of course, is not in front of you tonight, but when we come, we will be able to answer any questions related to the CDD.
Thank you.
Hopefully next month.
Thank you, Councilwoman. If you could address for me and respond to in a nutshell, respond to the basis for denial of each of the applications as presented by the director?
Yeah, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Corradino, but obviously we have the negative recommendation on the variance, which is par for the course, so I don't think that's anything surprising. As to the design and what is in the site plan comments, and I will not belabor this as well, but are basically related to concerns about pedestrian access, walkability, and again, I don't want to speak for staff, but there are, if we're getting a negative, based on, I'll read you the guidelines from the urban design manual that are relevant. Define block edges is a concern. The other one is variety of building types, which again, we believe we have complied with, as Mr. Starr showed you. Compatibility, which I'm confused by, but basically what the the comment suggests is that garages and vehicular parking are highly encouraged to be situated towards the rear of the property. So basically the idea, and I see this in several of these comments, and it's in the walkability concept as well, that staff would prefer to see an alley-based parking in the rear. Now, this city doesn't have a townhouse, doesn't have a row house zoning district, which is typical for rear loading, although rear loading is not prohibited under townhouse. It's also very difficult to do both rear loading and comply with your required setbacks, for example. Most times where you see rear loaded product in a row house is that the row house gets pushed to the front so you can put the parking in the back. So again, and then public realm by design, which again is a comment related to alleys. Mr. Shiver wants to comment as well, so I'll let Steve talk in a second. Again, in our opinion, we are providing in this project the most walkable townhouse development with fantastic access for families that I've ever seen. Their kids can ride their bikes safely from their home to a place where they can play soccer, which is something we cannot say in 99% of South Florida, including where I live, right? This is a community that will be exactly that. We use the word community a lot when we talk about residential developments, but this is one, right? This is built to be a community where you have a central meeting place and gathering place for families that live in this development. All right, Mr. Shiver wants to comment, I'm sure.
Steve Shiver, do I have to be sworn in? I was late. Can I do that? Can you swear me in, please, just to make sure, be comfortable? Steve Shiver for the applicant.
Do you hereby swear or affirm to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God?
I do.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you all for giving us the time to come before you. You know, we started this project back in October of last year. Came through it initially with some variances because of the configuration and removing the lake. I mean, how many times have you turned on the TV and see a child die in a lake that's in a homeowners association? And that, I don't think it is needed anymore, especially when we have fill material that we can get from other places and a developer who's willing to do that. So it's not just robbing his land to take the fill, but it's actually bringing in fill to make it more safe for our neighbors. I don't think you're going to find a project that was successful with a lot of the suburban development core design criteria that's in your code. Back-end lots, I think Cali Greens, rear-loaded garages. I think Cali Greens is the only one that was built and not another since. So your code was built in a time when architecture was really into this live, work, play in one little area. That live, work, play works in a more dense area in your transportation areas or some more close to the transportation hubs, but it's a challenge in other locations. We heard you when we met with you initially on the plans. We met with individually all of you, and we're concerned about the number of units at that time, and I think it was 300, and it was something else. I forgot the number. But we decided to go back and take into account your comments, take into account staff comments. That's why I'm a little taken aback with the denial because of the suburban criteria, which that was never mentioned to us, I don't recall. But that said, we went back and designed a facility or a community that actually used your code and gave everything we could do to make sure that we followed that code. We used your density bonus for the silver criteria, the lead building. We used that to get another unit, which is in your code that allows that to happen. And I think Mr. White drafted those codes years ago to encourage more green development and energy-wise development. So we took advantage of that and brought it to 8.98 units an acre, I believe. So we're still under the 9 units an acre. You're allowed 10 units an acre with the bonuses. You'll find, and I think there's a rework or discussion going on your code rewrite right now, that the additional density bonus based on open space, it doesn't work, because if you add that much open space, you wouldn't be able to get to 10 units an acre. It would not, so the math doesn't work. And I know that you're in the middle of looking at all that. We truly came back with let me ask a question, if I may. How many people would like to have a soccer field in your neighborhood about a block away from your house? If you'd like a soccer field, raise your hand. That's private for your neighborhood. How many? You look at these children out here. Look at these children. These are children approving and wanting a development concept like you have before you today. I know there's a lot of rigmarole over density, and I have been in your shoes, and I apologize for talking about density, but that seems to be the killer of all. And, you know, density is not the death nail of all developments if it's done right. If you look at the way this development is put together, the larger than normal lots, 22s you just approved down the street for Lennar, we're 25 footers. We're 25 foot wide, so we're bigger. The storage unit is in fact for, the 40 square foot, is in fact for hurricane shutters. That's what it was there for. I remember that myself, being on your side of the table. You don't need hurricane shutters when you have impact windows. So I know there's a lot of tension about density and those kinds of projects, but this project is the first ever, and it wasn't 500 in the staff report. It was mentioned $500,000 that we paid, 500 and something. It's actually $745,000 that we paid to the school board, the first ever done in the city of Homestead. And we did it because we wanted to comply. We wanted to come forward with a project that we were all comfortable with and putting in front of you, and knowing that I could vote for it if I was sitting on the other side. So with that said, if there's any other questions or anything, please let us know. But we also included a flagpole just to make sure that life is good in America. So just want you to know that as well. Okay, if there's any other questions, please let me know. Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone online or in the audience wishing to speak on this item? On any of the, there's three. Right?
None online.
All right. Thank you. Anything further from council? All right, I'll close the public hearing then, and we will start with, I need a motion on tab 6, the variance to waive the required storage area. We have a motion to approve, moved by Councilman Fletcher. Do we have a second? Second by Councilwoman Bailey. Are there any further questions or comments on the item waiving the 40 square foot storage area? None appearing then, let's have a roll call vote on tab 6, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Shelley,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bailey,
Yes.
Councilman Raw,
Yes.
Councilman Fletcher,
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fairclough Staggers,
Yes.
Mayor Losner,
Yes.
the motion carries.
All right. Next item is tab 7, and this would be granting site plan approval. Do we have a motion to approve the proposed site plan? Moved by Councilman Fletcher. Do we have a second? We have a second on the site plan.
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, second by Councilwoman with a question? Was that what I heard?
For discussion and, yeah.
Discussion, okay. All right. So it's been moved and seconded for approval. Councilwoman?
Well, I think that this is a very particular application, and it's worth, I think, extensive conversation about. I really want to clarify why I like this project. And then there are reasons why I don't like the project. But I think that the density situation is going to be a stickler for a lot of us and for a lot of the public. It's going to come down to how you do your calculation, right? And I think there's interpretation on how you're going to calculate it. If we go with the variances with the 10 per acre or the 9 per acre, this is still coming in under the max units that would be allowed. And even if you're calculating the 8 per acre, it's the amount of density that it's exceeding is less than 32 acres. I'm sorry, 32 units, maybe a little more. But with the adjustments that have been made, you've removed a lake which, as you mentioned, have had catastrophic effects on families in the past. You've added real recreation in the neighborhood. Lakes at first, they're beautiful, but you can't swim in it, you can't fish in it, you can't boat in it. You love it at first, but then it becomes an ecological issue, and then you have to pay to get lake maintenance people to clean it up and to fix it up. But with a soccer field and with basketball and with amenities for families to enjoy, you have a community that is serving its residents, and I think that this is actually a pretty unique site plan. I don't know if you could have planned it better to have a soccer team in the audience. I don't know if that's your luck, Steve, but good job. And the impact windows, that's huge. I put impact windows in my house this year, and wow, what a project. And so for a family to be able to have impact windows right off the bat as they move in on a townhouse community, and outdoor storage, and I'm glad it passed, but the outdoor storage, that's like, less than $1,000 at Home Depot, so if they really want it, they can add it. I don't know if I like the whole topic of the CDD. That'll come up later. And I think that the history of this application and the challenges that you've gone through, we've got to do better with communicating with our staff and treating our staff with respect to get to this position. So I like the project. I don't like the process that it went through. I think that a lot of those challenges came out of trying to come up with a new way of going around our code and our process and the challenges that can come up with. So I appreciate staff going through it and for getting us to this point where we can actually talk about the application and make a decision. And I certainly can appreciate the landowner and the developer with bringing money to the table to invest into the infrastructure and the streets and the street work and the light work and all that stuff, and the school system getting over $750,000. That's going to be great for our school system. So for those reasons and others, I do support this application tonight, but I am open to continue to hear what the rest of my colleagues have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any questions from my left? Vice Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of comments. First off, I'd like to say I think you really knocked it out of the ballpark with the amenities that will be provided to the residents. I haven't seen it anywhere. I would love to have that in my townhome community, but it just doesn't exist. So this is going to be great for the families that would potentially be there. It's very transparent with you and communicating my concerns with the potential traffic, the whole density issue. So I think it's prudent for you to come and have a conversation about, if this is approved, what are the plans to help mitigate traffic? Because that is a real concern, that density piece. So if you can talk about, if this is approved, how will our community get around this whole traffic? 231 units, the cars leaving out of Homestead. Talk about the traffic. Is this a real issue?
Sure. On the basic level, obviously, in the discussions with the administration and the peer reviewer, it was identified that one segment at 168th Second and Campbell needed improvements, right? That's the proportion share mitigation you've been seeing on various projects, right? That improvement has been identified, and we're providing our share of that improvement. So that is the sole improvement, and Joaquin Vargas is here, our traffic engineer, who could follow up if I'm going wrong, but that's the sole improvement identified by the city that's necessary for the project. So we've asked you to approve that later in the agenda, that mitigation. As to any other questions about traffic, Mr. Vargas is here. We did our analysis based on what the county requires us to do, and the city's reviewer. So that was the extent of the mitigation that was recognized as necessary.
Who did you say is here to speak more about traffic? Because
okay.
my constituents don't understand anything you just said.
Sure.
So we need to go a little bit deeper with that.
Sure. Joaquin, could you come up for a second? So Joaquin Vargas is with TrafTech. He's the guy who did the analysis for the project.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Joaquin Vargas with TrafTech Engineering. Yes, we worked with your outside consultant developing the methodology, all of the intersections that we had to evaluate. We did fresh traffic counts, and then we loaded the network. As was stated, there was one location that was identified as problematic, and there's an improvement, and we agreed to do a proportionate share, what our impacts are at that intersection. Also, staff recommended, and I believe that we agreed to it, to install a dedicated right turn lane at our driveway going westbound on 336. The analysis didn't show the need for that, but I think they feel strongly about that, and I believe that we have agreed to do that as well. I should also point out that the initial traffic study was for more units, and since that time as was discussed, that has been reduced, and so our impacts and the mitigation was done with the original higher number of units, so our impacts are going to be less. But we did address all of the concerns from a traffic standpoint.
Okay. I have another question. Mr. Shiver, come up for a second, because it's still not getting home for my constituents and for me, who it impacts every single day, who has to leave out of the city to go to work when it takes them an hour to get to Cutler Bay. So bringing more units, more cars, what is the plan in the future? How can traffic be resolved? And when I spoke to you on the phone, you discussed that. Can you speak about that so that my community can understand clearly in a layman's term how that will positively impact them?
Yes, ma'am. As you all know, South Florida, South Dade in general, is changing dramatically. Like it or not, there's developed land here, there's undeveloped land here that's already zoned by right. They have the right to develop. So traffic is going to come. What we have done in the past, and I'm guilty of it, is not necessarily planned for as much traffic that we got when we annexed the land by Baptist Hospital and all that. We maybe put the cart before the horse. And although I wasn't here at that time, there were some things that probably could have done better. But Monday morning quarterbacks would win every game, right? But today, as we stand here, the DOT Turnpike interchange at US 1 and Palm Drive, remember they were contemplating a flyover there, which would be disastrous for all of us. They actually have gone away with that concept. So the development we're speaking of here tonight with the right turning lane, and I believe we'll do the right turn lane out of that to induce them to go towards the US 1 and Palm Drive. People are going to that development. I've lived in this area my entire life. There's no way I would live in this development, go left, come through Lakeshore area, go to Mallory, go through Campbell Drive to get to the turnpike. That is absolutely not a path of least resistance. The path of least resistance for this development and the traffic mitigation that Vice Mayor speaks of is Florida City, and that development down there is a wider interchange, easier to get to, and you know they just covered the canal from the Homestead jurisdiction to US 1. I'm proud to say that Florida City was able to get another grant, I think it was $16.8 million, to finish that the canal coverage. So it's going to be finished in the city of Homestead all the way to the high school. So you're going to have, I think it's about 8 lanes. It's a great east-west feeder pattern for all of Keys Gate and East Lake and all those areas. So your concern is correct. When people say development, oh, the traffic. I got mine. I don't want anybody else to have theirs. That's sometimes the mentality of people that move into a community and don't want anything else to happen. Well, that's not fair to job creation, not fair to tax base for this city to be able to operate at a viable level. So your code prescribes what we can and cannot do. The density, all right, I keep hearing that word thrown around. We're less than 9. You've got 10 and 12 in other areas in the DRI that are normal, commonplace, and 22-foot deep frontage. Those have been approved left and right. But the density is prescribed in your code, so we took advantage of that density. It's not 8 units an acre. It was 10 But if you get 8 and you do X and Y, you can have the additional bonus, which is back up to the normal level of density for townhouse projects throughout Dade County. So when we keep considering density, I think we prescribed to your code and gave you what you asked for in your code. And that's a LEED energy certified materials, tree cover. You'll see that this isn't just a bunch of palm trees. If we can put that back on, it's not just a bunch of palm trees. It's flowering trees. It's developed properly. Meandering walkways for walkability. The urban development concepts that were promulgated by, I think, Ruth PLAT or Zyberg back in the day. Some of that doesn't work. The market will not do it. And so you've only got one development that subscribed to that urban design concept with the backloading garages and the alleyways and things like that. It doesn't work anymore. And I've talked to many of you that have said, we're looking at that because you're right. There's code issues that we need to look at. But going back just to traffic, because density and traffic are so related, you're going to mitigate that by the US 1 Palm Drive substantially. Last part, the turnpike. You saw the expansion that they've done on the turnpike from 288 north to add additional lanes. That's coming all the way to Florida City. Now it may be a couple years. I don't know when that will be finished. And DOT, God bless them all. But at the end of the day, we've planned for it. We know that that's coming. Okay, so your concern, Vice Mayor, is addressed, I think, and adequately so.
Thank you for that. I'll rest there, and if I need to circle back, I will. Thank you.
Councilman Fletcher first, and then Councilman Roth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's one of the first questions I always ask when we have these discussions is, 231 units times an average of 2.5 cars per household is going to add so many cars, so many miles, about 3 miles worth of cars bumper to bumper if you do that. However, one thing I did like about the proposal is you have the 2 access points and exit points, on 172 Avenue and 336. So you're splitting that number there. I am in support of this application at this time, but I will tell you we will have some discussions on the CDD because I am not a fan and have not been a fan of CDD since the inception of those. So it's going to take a lot of long discussions on that to move forward on that, but I will support these items tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Fletcher. Councilman Roth.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I guess in the same thing with traffic, just looking at what your traffic guys have put together, 84% of the residents in your site will be traveling east on 336 out to 8th Street. So it's contrary to what your thought process is on how traffic will flow out of the community, and as well as where they may be heading if they do take that right-hand turn and head towards US 1 and Palm Drive. In your study as well, the project at that intersection is already failing and will continue to fail with or without this project in place. So with the improvements at Palm Drive and US 1, you already have a failing intersection servicing many of the residents that come out of the city of Homestead already. That's just based on what the traffic study that we got that was presented by your traffic guys. So there's going to be an issue with traffic coming out with the additional Florida City developments for people that want to come east to Tennessee and then head north and then out to the turnpike. I agree that the more logical way would be to go into Florida City and catch a turnpike, go north that way. But based just simply on what is provided by your traffic study, it doesn't show that. It shows that 84% of the people would be using 336 and 16% would be using 172 Avenue heading south and out of the community. So it's kind of contradictory to what you're talking about. The other issues I think is going to be stacking people heading north on Tennessee 167 or 162, 167, heading north and then trying to go east and west on North Canal. There's already an issue there with traffic. That's just part of it. I'm also in agreement with Councilman Fletcher with the CDD issue, and I have already voted against CDDs in the community. So I'm not sure if the project dies with the CDD implementation to this whole project, because if it's going to die on that, then none of this matters. I mean, the special taxing district, based on what we've been told from staff, if that CDD fails, the burden comes on the city of Homestead. The county is no longer accepting that responsibility. So that's another piece to this puzzle that we haven't been presented with yet, and we'll have to discuss. And if it is a make or break for this project, that needs to be spoken about, I think, soon rather than later, because that part may not get through if this part does. So those are just some of my thoughts for now. I'll reserve time for later as we continue the discussion. But the traffic is a concern. That traffic there at Tennessee heading north with the school there in the morning, coming south, it's already pretty bad as it sits already. So thank you for the time, Mayor.
Thank you.
Councilman, could we have Joaquin address the percentage of the traffic? Because I think it's something that I didn't know either, that he can explain better. Please.
Thank you. Very good observation. Let me tell you how those numbers are developed. Every project in Miami-Dade County, the county has a model that they run, and they provide these percentages for every area of the county. So wherever the site is, we are required to use what the county model indicates. I do concur with you. I do believe that it is a shorter route, quicker route to go south and onto Florida City. But those are the rules that we have in Miami-Dade County, so it's based on that model. It's not based on your own judgment. Regarding the deficiency at the intersection, you are correct. You know, we do have intersections that are problematic. What we look at is the timing of the traffic signal. Can that timing be adjusted to at least mitigate the impacts? And that has been demonstrated in the traffic study. Now, one of the things that was mentioned before is the proportionate share for that improvement further north. So remember that is based on 84% of the traffic heading towards the north. So I believe that we're over mitigating at that location. We have agreed to that fee. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think the proportionate share at the intersection of Campbell and Farm Life is a little getting out of control here, but and that doesn't do a lot for that intersection of relieving traffic for people heading north in the morning time and coming back home in the evening. What really needs to be done on that road is be four-laned all the way through, which it's not. So, and I think we've mentioned that before, that you know, that's just another part of it. It's an interesting process, but I think the whole package needs to be looked at, because there's other parts to this besides the site plan approval and the other things. And the CDD could be a killer. Does somebody, I guess it's out there, does somebody want to address what the CDD means to you guys, and if it doesn't go through, what happens to this project? And I just want to point out one more thing too, and Joe, maybe you can help me with this.
Well,
They didn't remove the lake from their plans. They couldn't use the lake as recreational space, so it had to come out. Is that right?
That's correct. The retention ponds are no longer required as open space. So it
Right,
couldn't
so
be
they
used.
didn't remove it. They had to remove it.
Correct.
Just a point of clarity so everybody understands it.
Sorry, Councilman, on the lake, the design is just a completely different design. The 2009 design assumed that they were not going to be, that owner wasn't going to be filling the property, like he was going to do, as many people do, dig the lake, use that dirt to fill the property. What this project is no longer doing that, right? We're trucking in necessary fill from off-site, so that allows us to avoid taking up all that acreage for a lake and still having a project. And again, the benefit of that, obviously, is that the residents have a real-world amenity at the end of the day. So again, as the CDD, I just want to clarify one thing, and Mr. White can tell me when I go wrong. The county requires, as part of any CDD now, for us to simultaneously create a special taxing district that will tax the residents, so the property owners within the district, which is just our residents, to maintain the public landscaping that the CDD will be maintaining hypothetically in the future. So so that special taxing district doesn't do anything at all until the project is built, the improvements are built, the CDD fails in some fashion, then there's this backup. So basically they call it a dormant special taxing district, which means that it sits there in a drawer and gets used if you need it. Now that's a common thing that the county does for multifamily projects. They say you need a dormant district to handle these improvements in case your HOA fails or in case something else happens. So what the county is now requiring the city to do is and this is every city, is when you have that special taxing district that again doesn't do anything until it's necessary, the city has to agree to manage that district when and if it actually gets activated. So the whole thing is the county's telling us we're out of the special taxing district business. You local governments are going to handle districts in your town or city. So that's the agreement that they have required James to work on. That will need to go along with any kind of CDD application that comes in front of you. So I will excited to talk about that when it's appropriate. This project is not contingent on it. So we would ask for your approval of this beautiful plan tonight. We're here for questions.
So, Councilman Roth, I can speak a little further to that. This proposed new residential subdivision will be required to have an HOA. The HOA will have to maintain the private roads in the common areas and the recreational areas. Those are denoted on the site plan, which corresponds to the tentative plat by tract number. And the process then culminates in a final plat, which then gets recorded at the county. At the time that it gets recorded at the county, those tracts denoted on the final plat are deeded to the HOA, so that the HOA, the developer deeds those properties over to the HOA, so they assume ownership of it, and they maintain and own those common areas and maintain those and own those. And then everybody participates in whatever the monthly HOAs are. So, so this project will be subject to that process. The applicant has also submitted an application to the county and is proposing a community development district, as well as a corresponding dormant special taxing district. And so what happens is that is a creature of the legislature. It's a special tax, a community development district is a vehicle, it's a mechanism that the county creates. It requires first the municipality, the host municipality, to agree to the creation of the district, and then it goes to the county for the county to approve the creation of it, and upon creation, it then allows, under the statute, there's an enumerated list of powers that the CDD can have. And they have the ability to bond out money for the development, the infrastructure costs, sewer, water, roads, all the hard costs associated with the development of the project, which then get allocated over 30 years and passed on to the the ultimate individual property owners. The county requires, with the creation of a CDD, the creation of what they call a dormant special taxing district, which is in the event that the community development district is to go belly up, for a better lack of terms, or default or something, that the dormant special taxing district could be activated and then would take the place of the CDD. Now, we've done that in the past. What's different from 2 years ago is that now the county is requiring that the moment that the special taxing district is created by the county, that the city has to agree to the automatic transfer of that special taxing district to the city, so that the city is the jurisdictional body controlling the dormant special taxing district and would be responsible for the maintenance and everything, liabilities, everything associated with the dormant special taxing district, if and when it ever needs to get activated. And in addition to a resolution stipulating your approval creating that dormant special taxing district, the county also requires an interlocal agreement to go along with that resolution. So those items will be coming before you for consideration in November. And whether or not you agree to those, we'll have that discussion, and whether or not those are relative to the applicant and whether or not they are determinative on the economic feasibility for the applicant and moving this, for this project. I mean, I can't speak to that, but that's not a factor in whether or not you approve the site plan for consideration this evening, if that helps.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Shiver wants to chime in, if you don't mind. He might have something to add.
Real estate experience actually shows very well today, pulling out those components of the traffic study that are buried in probably a 100-page document or so. But thank you for pointing them out. But as you know, by law, we're not allowed to incorporate the changes that we know are happening in coming in the Turnpike Exchange, and as well as the larger canal issue being covered all the way, which will mitigate that substantially. You live in, I believe, San Remo, have for years. I live right around the corner from you. There's no way, logically, and I think you touched on this, you and I would not drive all the way through the city of Homestead and the traffic congestion by Walgreens and the hospital to get on the Turnpike when I have that access point right there. And of course, there's the traffic opportunity windows. We used to call them TOW when I was in the county. The traffic opportunity windows, if you leave at 7, you're going to get backed up. It's just unfortunately what our world down here is about. So there's a lot of mitigation that comes from people planning their trips properly and doing things in that nature. But it would be unprecedented for us to kill a deal, especially when the traffic study that we proffered has 50 more units than we actually did. We didn't recalculate that. So we're actually paying more for mitigation than we should because we have 50 less units in this application. But that's okay. My client has agreed to do that. We've agreed to the mitigation for the right turn lane onto 336. And at the end of the day, you can't incorporate the changes and the improvements that are coming, and we know they're on the table. They've been funded. We know it's happening. We can't incorporate that into the study because law will not allow it. Okay, that's an issue. On the special taxing district, that's not an issue here tonight. We are caught in the land of firsts, this application. We're the first to go through the issue with the school board. We're the first to go through the issue with special taxing districts being slid over to the cities. In the summer of this year, the county decided they didn't want to be involved in the dormant taxing districts. So while they create the CDD, and James, excuse me, Mr. White, correct me if I'm wrong, while they approved the CDDs, the special taxing district is a dormant taxing district that if the HOA fails, the CDD goes belly up. Kia Drive, for example. How would you like to have Kia Drive? That's a classic example. They had an HOA. How would you have liked to have the power of a special taxing district to implement what they should have done and failed miserably at doing, and essentially killing the values of 100 homes? So if you had the special dormant taxing district at that time, you would have been able to step in, take care of those residents that spent $60, $70, $80, $100,000 on a unit in Kia Drive that are now 40, 50, well, maybe different now, but they dropped substantially because the HOA failed. So a special taxing district, a dormant special taxing district, is if the CDD fails and the HOA fails, taking care of their issues, you should require a dormant taxing district in HOAs, just for that very reason. So there's always two sides to the coin, and unfortunately, the media and others kind of use these things to concern during elections and get everybody all riled up. But if you sit back, and that's your job as an elected official representing all of us, sit back and weigh both sides, I think you'll see that it's a valuable asset to the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me offer Councilwoman Bailey the opportunity to chime in. She's not done so yet. And I'll go to Councilman Shelley if he wishes to join in.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, we have had quite a few lengthy conversations, and the setback variances and some of the other variances that were there first, I had a lot more issues with than I did for the storage. And storage still was an issue because I struggle with it. And I think especially with the townhomes, that's something that I would like for our residents to be able to take advantage of. And I believe it was our first conversation that I brought up the impact windows, and you weren't sure if you would be able to do that. So I am very happy that that is there. I personally don't see what an outside storage unit, what benefit that would be against the more floor space. So I am really happy to see the amenities added to the garage. So as far as the variance, I don't have an issue with that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Shelley, do you wish to join in at this time?
Thank you, Mayor. No, nothing really more than what my colleagues have already raised. I mean, obviously I've never been a big fan of additional townhomes, going back for a couple years now, based on some of the discussions we've had about density and traffic issues. And I think that my colleagues have raised some really good points and made some of those points about what the traffic ultimately, some of the concerns are, and I have some of the very similar concerns. I do commend the applicant, though, for putting together, a pretty nice looking townhome project. It's definitely unique and different than anything we have seen come before us. So I do want to commend you for at least, from an aesthetic standpoint, and definitely from an amenity standpoint, adding something in or proposing something that ultimately is very different and unique, as far as townhomes go. And it does make the analysis a little bit tougher to do than, say, just a typical cookie cutter townhomes that we've seen come through here in the past. But I still have the same concerns about the density and about the traffic, and take into account, some of the concerns our residents have raised and continue to raise going forward. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Vice Mayor, did you signal you wanted to chime in again?
Just very quickly, I wanted to just circle back and say, I'm taking all of these applications relative to density on a case-by-case basis, and it is very important to be fair. And if I have to balance everything out, if you would have come back with all those variances, would have been dead on arrival for me. But the sole variance that you have left relative to the storage, I think that what you're proposing, I can digest that. It's acceptable. But I wanted to bring up that traffic and put it on the record for the edification of the community, because that was a concern that continued to be repeated in the community. So it's very critical for me to ask those questions to give you the opportunity to answer it. So I will support it tonight because it's only one variance that I can live with. Other than that, they've been dead on arrival. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. should come as no secret that I'm no fan of this level of density in general, and generally of the opinion that we have more than our fair share in this community of, to borrow a phrase the Vice Mayor used a moment ago, the cookie cutter townhomes. But this is an entirely different product, both in terms of design and layout, the amenities, and I think the attorney's right. I don't think there's anything close to this anywhere in this community. And in terms of density alone, that the appearance, the design, the amenities, that makes the difference for me in this regard. And I want to address the variance quickly. I think I was here maybe when that storage space was implemented, and you have to put it in the context that at the time, many of the townhouses being constructed did not have garages. You've got the garage. So for me, that's another layer. This is a little bit bigger garage than you would normally find in a townhouse, and the fact that you have a garage in this townhouse, I don't have a problem with that variance. The other two applications I kind of view as more of a technical exception, technical denial with respect to our staff. But I too have to go back to the traffic, as I've had the obligation to go door to door over the past several months. That is the number one issue, and let's face it, 231 units is probably at least 500 cars out every morning and 500 cars back in every afternoon. And I think we can all agree and respect that you put two traffic engineers side by side looking at the same, this or any other project, and you're going to have you can make them say whatever you need them to say. And very often you don't hear me use the name Shiver and agree in the same sentence, but common sense dictates that most of the traffic would go south, that path of least resistance. And sometimes there's not that common sense built into those traffic studies. So that is the one concern. And again, I'm not being unmindful of the traffic considerations here. I think that we're going to resolve that. Well, let me ask the applicant, and maybe our attorneys can chime in. We talk about $770,000 into the school system. Let me confirm and be very clear here that that is not earmarked for any school in the greater Homestead area or feeder patterns. That is money that just goes into the black hole of that bureaucracy. Is that a fair assessment?
And Mr. White may be able to give additional data, but the concept is that it is supposed to be utilized by the school board for capital improvements within the impacted area. Now, what that means in reality, it depends. It's their discretion. They get the money, they do with it. But that's the way it's supposed to work. It's supposed to be localized.
But just so we're all on the same page, let me ask Mr. White if he has any insight he can share with us as to what ability we may have to, down the road, force that issue as other projects are going to come in and being asked to contribute. How can we ensure, if at all, that is truly, coming back within a reasonable amount of time? Or is that totally in the school board's discretion?
So when the applications come in, pursuant to the interlocal agreement, there's a process that we have to adhere to. And staff submits the information, if you will, plugs it into the system, sends it to the school board, as well as coordination with the applicant who has to coordinate and submit information to the school board. They run their analysis and they generate a report and they identify any deficiencies, and it identifies what those deficiencies are and where the schools are, or the student stations, or the classrooms that are required to be built, and those costs. And presumably, that's what the mitigation is supposed to be for. Now, as Mr. Penn said, once that payment's made, I mean, I don't know that we have any ability
As I feared. Okay. You answered me. Yeah.
Okay, well, I can read you the precise language, not to extend our evening, but the monetary proportionate share mitigation funds shall be used by the school district to provide for the creation of one elementary school classroom containing 22 student stations at one of the impacted schools, as determined by the school district.
Okay. Very good, thank you. All right. We did have a motion and a second on the site plan, correct? Okay.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes,
I just
Councilwoman.
need some additional clarification because you brought up a great point. So is the funding, the $750,000 or $770,000, is that going towards improvements to the city or not? Because you mentioned that it's not impacting the greater Homestead area, and then I could barely hear what he said. So now I'm on the edge there. And then as an addition to that, is there any way that this traffic study can be revised so that you're doing it based on the accurate number of units, so that maybe that will change the failure to a pass? I don't like the precedence of us, approving site plans with a failing
Councilmember,
traffic study.
we asked for a revision. The applicant declined to revise.
Can you repeat that, please?
We asked for a revision. The applicant declined to revise.
If it's the council's wish, we have no issue with, as a condition, providing staff with a revised analysis with that reduced impact. But again, the proportionate share agreement is based on the current numbers, so I think the city's in a better position based on that. But we don't, so again, if we want to update it, and after tonight, we will gladly accept that as a condition.
Thank you for the clarification. Unless Councilman Fletcher is willing to amend his motion, I'm probably going to have to vote down on this item based on the traffic study failing, as well as my confusion now as to whether or not the money that is being invested by the developers in our city, if it's actually coming back to the city, and that's a big issue for me. So I really appreciate you bringing that up, Mayor.
Mr. Shiver?
For additional consideration, the school board, $770,000, they use their formula as a radius of what schools will be impacted by our development. Okay, it is said by the school board that circle, that radius, originally defining the number of $770,000+, will be used to improve those 1-2 classrooms, right? Or 30 student stations.
Is that document in our packet, the
Yes,
one that
ma'am.
you're reading?
Yes,
Can
ma'am.
you tell me which page, please?
Go ahead, Janice.
It's tab 11.
It's page 6 of the actual document.
I appreciate it, and I don't want to hold up the motion. If there isn't going to be a change to the motion, I think you probably will be fine without me, so.
Okay, but
I
just for
appreciate the
the
clarification.
change of the motion, just for clarification, we will gladly provide the updated traffic representing the 231 units versus the 281 units. But be mindful that we're actually overpaying, okay, because of that traffic study, number one. So our traffic mitigation payment will go down. But additionally, I don't want the council conditioning this on another month or two delay. We've started this process in October, and for various reasons, some of it ours, okay, it's taken a year to get here today. We have become the land of first, the first to ever mitigate the school board, the first to ever deal with the densities issues, or excuse me, the interlocal agreement. I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. The school board, as well as the other interlocal agreement that we have to define now with the special taxing districts, which is a separate issue. So please, I would implore you to approve tonight what you have before you, knowing, Councilman Avila, you bring up a great idea, that the study be recalculated But just for the public's understanding, we are overpaying.
Mr. Mayor, I need to correct the record.
Please.
If you don't mind. The applicant didn't even come into the Development Services Department until December of 2020. The applicant didn't submit a full application until July 19th, 2021. And so we took the applicant out of turn and reviewed the applicant multiple times with incomplete application through that point in time. At the point where and that's 8 months of reviews that were undertaken without a complete application. Traffic study wasn't received until July 19th. At the point where the application that you see before you today came in, they had multiple variances. The application looked nothing like this. We received that application on August 6th of 2021, and it was prepped for council and on the council agenda by August 16th, 2021. So within 10 days, we reviewed a completely new application. Again, so we took this totally out of order. It would have not even started a review until the middle of July 2021. And by the way, the application that came in the door was reviewed in 10 days and put on the council agenda, at which point we've waited for the applicant from that point to now, 100% their issue with Miami-Dade County. So with all due respect, and you know when you hear that coming, something good's following it, this is not a staff delay in any way, shape, or form.
And Mayor Cordino, I actually said that in the beginning, that a lot of the delays were on our part. So I meant no disrespect to you and your office. You guys have done Herculean jobs getting through the process, giving the staff that you have and the budget that you have in your department. But that said, that's why I said in the beginning, it was on us as well. So we would like to move forward today. I think the positive comments that we've heard have been very fruitful, and we'll make you proud.
Thank you. If there's nothing further, did you, Councilman Roth?
Why not? Why not? I'm just curious to hear from staff. Both the P&Z board denied this and staff has. Can you elaborate a little bit more why?
It was not this application. This was a completely different, remember, this was one, this, according to code, had 6 or 7 variances. It was 2 units over dense for townhomes, and it was impossible to meet the density bonus requirements. This application, it was effectively, it was probably the most opposite of the city code that you could have ever put forward. That's what we were dealing with from December 16th till August 6th. And I believe the planning board probably reviewed it before that time.
In July, they
yeah, they reviewed it. So they reviewed, it looked nothing like this. This was completely, this is something that we went back and forth with the applicant for all that time period through reviews, trying to inch them towards something that was more approvable, something like this. Again, not until then. By the way, they submitted the application on 8/6, and then they revised it again a few days later. So this was as the mayor put it, it was a cluster of different applications that came through the system. Very confusing, very disjointed, not typically the way we want to do business, because you don't know what you're reviewing one day to the next. And that's all I got.
Thank you.
Before I get in trouble.
Thank you. Thank you. Not to mention the countless hours that staff, not just your office, the clerk's office, spent putting books together, undoing books, and putting books back together again. And I just want to say I appreciate your tenacity, the applicant's tenacity in getting to this point tonight. I'm sure it wasn't easy, but kudos to both the staff, the clerk's office, and the developer for getting this far.
We appreciate that. And I think that then there's a lot of complaints about the cost recovery fees. We did 8 months of reviews on an application that never made it to the city council. That's why we want to have complete applications in the door. I mean, we did 8 months of work, right? And that's lawyers' time, planners' time, traffic people's time, all that type of stuff that the applicant's got to pay for, because somebody's got to pay for it, right? For an application that was 100% revised, submitted on August 6th, and then made the council agenda literally 10 days later. So had this been done on December 16th, it could have been a council in February, and this would all be over with an approved project. But the new process didn't work. You need complete applications before you start reviewing this stuff, or it becomes a disaster.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. No objections. I'll close the discussion and ask for a roll call vote on the motion for approval on tab 7, granting site plan approval. We did. I did.
Councilwoman Avila?
To clarify, the motion stays the same, right?
As stated.
Okay, no.
Councilman Shelley?
No.
Councilman Fletcher?
Yes.
Councilman Roth?
No.
Councilwoman Bailey?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fairclough Staggers?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right. Moving on to tab 8. We need a motion to approve the resolution approving the tentative plat for the Keys Lake subdivision. Do we have a motion? Moved by Councilman Fletcher. Do we have a second? Second by Councilwoman Bailey. Anything further from council on the tentative plat portion of this application? Councilwoman?
Just want to say that I love the design, and I really appreciated everything that you've done to get to this point, and I'm glad that it's moving forward, but just for the reasons I've mentioned, I'm going to continue to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So is there anyone online or in the chambers wishing to speak on this matter? No? All right. We'll close the public hearing. Anything further from council on approval of the tentative plat? None appearing. We'll ask for a roll call vote.
Councilman Roth?
No.
Councilwoman Bailey?
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila?
No.
Councilman Shelley?
No.
Councilman Fletcher?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fairclough Staggers?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Mayor, sorry, Council. I would suggest that we go ahead and take out of order, tab 10 and 11, which are the corresponding resolutions dealing with the transportation prop share agreement and the public school concurrency mitigation agreement.
All right,
dealing with this.
Please go ahead and read them by title then.
Right, so tab 10 is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving a transportation proportionate fair share agreement, providing for implementation and providing for an effective date. And tab 11 is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving a public school concurrency proportionate share mitigation development agreement, providing for implementation and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Is there any further staff report on these two items?
No, sir. We're recommending you simply consider both those items. It's totally at council's discretion. You're on your own.
Thank you. Is there anything further from the applicant or applicant's counsel on these two items?
No, Mr. Mayor. I should have stood up just to say no, but again, the form of the interlocal agreement is a standard agreement that is the school board's document, which we've already executed. And as I noted in the previous hearing, the requirement is that our payment has to be spent to resolve the impact of the project in Homestead. So I think that is what they're obligated to do. And of course, the proportionate share agreement is the same document that you've approved, the form of the same document approved last month for the target. So we would ask for your approval of both of those today. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions or comments from council on tabs 10 or 11?
Mayor.
Yes. Vice Mayor.
I work for the Miami-Dade County Public School System, and although there's no benefit to me, there's no conflict of interest. I prefer to err on the side of caution and abstain from voting on these two items.
Thank you. On both, for the roads and the schools. Okay. All right. Is there, did you have something? All right, is there anyone online or in the chambers wishing to speak on this matter?
That's the appearance of. I'm sorry.
All right, so we'll
Vice Mayor.
close the public
There-
hearings on tabs 10 and 11.
Wait, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. The proportionate share agreement with us has nothing to do at all with, okay. So, there's no grounds for, okay. No, okay.
So I will ask for a
should vote for-
motion. Oh, okay. A motion on tab 10.
Mayor, if I may, since the attorney is emphatic that there is absolutely no conflict of interest.
You're fine.
I'm fine. On the record, I'm fine. There you go.
All right, so let's have a motion on tab 10, the Transportation Proportionate Fair Share Mitigation Agreement. We have a motion to approve the agreement. Moved by Councilman Fletcher. We have a second. Second by Councilwoman Bailey. Is there any further discussion? All right, let's have a roll call vote on tab 10.
Councilman Fletcher,
Yes.
Councilman Shelley,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bailey, Councilwoman Avila, Councilman Roth,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fairclough Staggers,
No conflict of interest? Yes.
Mayor Losner.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Tab 11, the tri-party agreement, Miami-Dade County Public Schools related to public school concurrency mitigation. Do we have a motion for approval on this item?
I'll move as written.
Moved by Councilman Fletcher. Do we have a second? Second by Councilwoman Bailey. No further discussion. Roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
One second.
Oh, Councilman Roth.
Just clarity, because the motion does mention a different dollar amount than they're quoting. So is this dollar amount correct or not that's inside this resolution?
There are two dollar amounts listed in tab 11. The number that we got for a cash payment was the $500,000 number, and there is something in here called, the number we got from the school board for the check was $500,000, and we got this, let me read it to you. There is there's a clause in here that says, in no event will the impact fee credit exceed the amount of monetary proportion share fare, and then it mentions $740,000. Do you want to clarify that? Because I think they're writing a check for $500,000 and there's credits involved somewhere.
Yeah, so their total impact is the $700 amount, and then they've purchased, they've purchased credits from a bank, from banked credits, which reduces their cash payment, right? Is that?
I'll be clear. There's the two things we're paying for. We're paying into an existing mitigation bank for $198,000, right? And we're paying for a classroom of our own. So the total payment is $744,000. It's just there's two pieces of it.
Right.
Still the same amount going to the school board.
No, I just want to make sure that the resolution is correct, the way it's written.
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Roth. All right, I think we have a motion and a second. Let's have a roll call.
Councilwoman Bailey,
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila,
Yes.
Councilman Shelley,
Yes.
Councilman Roth,
Yes.
Councilman Fletcher,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fairclough Staggers, Mayor Losner.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And let me just say to all the blue shirts and parents and coaches out there, the worst is over.
The fun part
It
starts.
won't be near as long as it has already been.
And if I could, Mr. Mayor, I want to thank everyone for their patience, and I want to extend our apologies to staff for the tortured process that this application has taken. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. So is tab 9, yours, Mr. Pearl, or is that you, Madam Manager?
That is me, Mr. Mayor.
Right.
The City of Homestead Procurement Division purchases various sizes of voltage pad-mounted switchgear for the electric utilities inventory for use by the department on an as-needed basis. Typically, staff would order these items as needed and keep them in inventory, but due to rising prices, the cost has gone over permissible authority, so council approval is needed. Staff recommends mayor and council authorize the city manager to award request for quote 10/6/2021-40-XR to Stuart Irby for the purchase of switchgear pad mount 15 kV type PM-11 in the amount of $25,269.
Thank you. Any questions for council? Question? Okay. None appearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this matter? Do you have anyone online or in the audience? All right. None appearing. I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion to approve this item. Have a motion to approve the purchase. Moved by Councilman Roth, seconded by Councilman Shelley. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Shelley?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bailey?
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila?
Yes.
Councilman Fletcher?
Yes.
Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fairclough Staggers?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right. Next item, tab 12, car number 3361. Is that you, Mr. Pearl?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Tab 12 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, adopting the Public Art Master Plan, providing for implementation, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Madam Manager? That.
Thought you were going to handle the whole thing.
Public Art Master Plan.
Gotcha. Okay, the staff recommends the mayor and council approve the proposed 2021 Public Art Flexible Master Plan and Program Guidelines. This was discussed at the October 12th COW meeting and recommended to move forward as a resolution at the next council meeting, and that is this. The public art ordinance calls for the public art program that promotes the aesthetic values of the entire community and encourages the preservation and protection of works of art. The PAC was formed to help administer the program and make recommendations to the City Council regarding the dedication, the donations, and the acquisition of public art to fulfill the requirements of the public art ordinance. The PAC uses the master plan, which identifies locations for public art and establishes a priority order to the City Council as a guiding tool. One thing I think we need to mention here is that this will add a meeting to the schedule when developments start to come through the system. They need to go to the Public Art Committee. So it's DRC, Public Art, Planning and Zoning, and City Council. So kind of opposite of the way we're going, but nonetheless, we recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Corradino. Is there any questions from council? Councilwoman Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor. So the only thing worse than being quarantined with my 3-year-old at the last COW meeting was missing an opportunity to be able to speak about this. I am incredibly excited to see this finally coming to an end so that it may begin. Kudos to staff, kudos to the board members. Madam Chair, I applaud you all for this long 1.5 years, and I'm very, very excited to see what comes forth. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any further? Councilman Fletcher.
Yeah, one thing, Mr. Cordino did mention that this is going to add an additional level of governance. Maybe we can schedule those meetings concurrently or right afterwards, so that will make this move a little quicker through the process is all. That's all. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to just thank Ms. Sorrentino for following up with me on some of those recommendations that I made last meeting. I did want to clarify that my recommendation was for just heroes in general, not just military, but also our doctors, our teachers, our nurses, and firefighters, et cetera, police officers. So I appreciate all the effort that has been put into this plan, and I'm happy to support it tonight. And I apologize for not getting back to you individually. Coming back from bereavement has taken a lot of time to catch up with work. So thank you. I just wanted to address that.
Thank you. Councilman Roth?
Thank you. One last time. Just want to repeat everything I said. Well, I'm not going to repeat it, but last week or when we did the cow. Congratulations, Susan, on getting this finally done. I know Larry Deal's probably listening to us online right now, and your board. I don't know all of them by name. Steve Walker, and I think there was another one here with you the other night. But thank you for all your efforts. I know it was a challenging thing to get through, and the city's going to be going to enjoy what your talent will bring to the PAC, and I can look forward to what you guys will do in the future for art in public places in our city. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Vice Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Ms. Sorrentino, for all the work that you have put into this. And also thank you for the invitation to go and view the exhibit that is currently on display in the Homestead Station to reflect diversity. The images that you sent me were breathtaking and beautiful, and I look forward to going to visit this weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, and I just want to say that in addition to what has otherwise been said tonight and at the COW, I look forward to having your Public Art Committee present what we're going to buy, what those statues and busts and those abstract pieces, what they're going to be throughout the city. I mean, it's been a long 11 years, 10 and a half years, and I think the time is right, the right chair, the right committee, and we're going to see public art throughout the public space. And I'm excited about that, and I'm confident we're going to cover the full range from traditional to the most current and modern, whatever this week's trend may be. So thank you. So having said that, do we have a motion to approve? Moved by Councilwoman Bailey, seconded by Councilman Shelley. Anything further? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Roth? Yes. Councilwoman Bailey?
Yes.
Councilman Fletcher? Councilman Shelley?
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Faircloth Staggers?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right, next item, tab 7. Car number 3379, CEI Services for the Biscayne Everglades Greenway Trail Project. Madam Manager?
This is 3379?
3379.
This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving a work authorization for engineering services required for the city's Biscayne Everglades Greenway Trail Project between the city and HSQ Group, pursuant to continuing contract awarded under RFQ 2013-07 and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Mayor. As part of the construction of the Biscayne Everglades Greenway Trail Project, the Florida Department of Transportation is requiring the city to hire a third-party firm to perform the construction, engineering, and inspection services. Staff recommends that the mayor and council approve the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with HSQ Group, Inc. pursuant to RFQ 201307, professional architectural and engineering services for construction, engineering, and inspection services for the Biscayne Everglades Greenway Trail Project for a total not to exceed $70,700.
Thank you. Questions or comments from council? Get started? Okay. Is there anyone online or in the chambers who would like to speak on this matter? Okay, none appearing, then I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion to approve this item.
Move it.
Moved by Councilman Shelley, seconded by Councilwoman Avila. Anything further from council? Let's have a roll call vote.
Councilman Shelley?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bailey? Councilman Roth? Councilman Fletcher?
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Faircloth Staggers?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. All right, Madam Manager, car number 3378, discussion of the fiscal year 2022 legislative packet.
Thank you, Mayor. The 2022 legislative regular session convenes on January 11th, 2022. Every year, the City of Homestead staff compiles a summary of state legislative and funding requests that incorporates projects from the city's capital improvement plans as well as other legislative requests. After individual discussions with our lobbyists and our council members, this year the city intends to reduce the number of funding requests so that there is a focus on a limited number of specific initiatives, including the following: breast cancer screening, senior citizen programming, rails to trails, law enforcement technology upgrades, automatic water main flushing system, undergrounding of main electrical circuits, second electrical feed to the city-owned facility, and if funding becomes available, access to after-school programming. Exhibit 1 to this item provides details on just those items I just mentioned, and Exhibit 2 is the initial packet discussed at last week's COW. If the council agrees with the items listed in Exhibit 1, we will amend the packet accordingly and submit it to our lobbyists for consideration in Tallahassee.
Thank you. Questions or comments from council? Councilwoman Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank staff for adding the after-school programs. I'm really worried about what these first report cards are going to look like, and I would just love for us as a city to be ready, if there are those funds available, that we can make sure that our students are receiving the tutoring and the after-school programs that are needed. Not to mention, a lot of our students are being pulled from art classes and PE classes in order to be able to make up for the classes that they're struggling in. So I really thank you for working so fast to get that on there. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anything further from council? Okay, is there anyone online or in the audience wishing to speak on this matter? All right. So what action do you need from us to move forward with this?
If the items that I mentioned and the ones that are in Exhibit 1, if that's the will of the council, we will amend the packet and give that to our lobbyists rather than the big one that we looked at in the COW.
Any objections from council to the package as amended being submitted to our lobbying team? All right, thank you. Now, thank you all for hanging in there tonight to the public comment section. I know that there's future soccer stars, Olympic champions, mayors, council members, CEOs, you name it. I know you're in the chairs. And tonight, I know you've heard and learned more about land use and zoning than you ever wanted to know, and I apologize for that. I guess it's Mr. Shiver's gone, but I think all you soccer guys here tonight proved my point that there is no such thing as a coincidence in Homestead when we're talking about a project with its very own regulation size soccer field. I do first want to, we do have those who have signed in to speak, and first we have Luis Hernandez. If you want to come forward, give us your name and address for the record, and remember we've got that obnoxious 3-minute time clock.
I'm going to be translating for it.
Good. If you're comfortable, take off your mask. Maybe we all might be able to hear a little better.
He said that we came with a lot of soldiers and some already left, so they had to go to school tomorrow. He's asking for the kids to lift up the trophies we have.
Okay, todas estas son copas de Champions.
All these trophies are champion cups.
Only the champions. Comenzamos esta historia en el año 2013.
We started this story in 2013.
Esta fue la primera.
This is the first trophy.
Hace 8 años.
8 years ago.
Luego llegaron Weston Cup champions.
Then we became Western Cup champions.
State Cup champions.
State Cup champions.
Fuimos a Oklahoma a representar a la Florida.
We went to Oklahoma to represent Florida.
Disney Cup champion.
Been Disney Cup champion.
Okay. Muchas.
And a lot.
Patricia me conoce de hace años.
Patricia knows them for many years.
Ahora Erika también.
Erica as well.
Nosotros hace 14 años que nos mudamos aquí a la ciudad de Homestead.
He moved here 14 years ago.
Estuvimos pastoreando.
He was a pastor.
orando por esta ciudad todos los jueves a las 6 de la mañana por muchos años.
Praying for this city every Thursday at 6 a las 6 de la mañana.
6 de la mañana.
6 in the morning.
Ayudamos en las paladas primeras para hacer este edificio.
He came with Pastor Elking and shovel when this building was being done.
O sea, ya hace un tiempo que estamos por acá.
It's been a while that he's been around here.
Lo que queríamos es simplemente necesitamos la ayuda de la ciudad.
Simply what we're looking for is we need your help from the city of Homestead.
Y la comprensión para poder seguir siendo equipo y seguir compitiendo.
And we want you to comprehend that we want to still be a team and compete
de la mejor manera posible.
The best way possible.
Los que estaban aquí del 2013 ya no quedan chicos porque ya son de 20 años.
The ones that were in 2013 that won that trophy, they're not young anymore, they're adults.
Algunos de hecho hicieron la universidad, otros están trabajando y estudiando.
Some did the university, some are working already.
Algunos de ellos cuando los tomamos estaban un poquito complicados.
Some, when he took them, they're a little bit complicated when they're small.
Con el tema social, el mal social que es la marihuana y las drogas.
They were, socially, they were bad, like drugs, marijuana and other stuff.
Y gracias al soccer, al fútbol.
And thanks to soccer.
El entender cómo deben comportarse.
And for them to understand how they have to behave, sportsmanship, discipline.
Pudieron salir de esas cosas y hoy son muchachos que están trabajando y estudiando y sacando por venir.
The time's expired, but let me ask a quick question. What's the name of your, just for the record, your organization, the name of the organization?
Southern Homestead. Southern Homestead.
Okay, all right. And approximately how many participants do you have in the organization?
We have 130.
130,
plus.
Okay. Now you have some other speakers signed up, and perhaps within their 3-minute time frame, we can talk further about the nature of the assistance that is being requested.
Okay, no
All right,
problem.
so thank you. All right, next we had, Mayor.
Yes, I just had a comment. Thank you so much, Louis. Thank you for your tenacity. You're not going to let us forget that soccer is alive and well in the city of Homestead, and we really, really appreciate that. And all the students in here, the children in here tonight, really makes my heart swell. I appreciate the work that you're putting in with the students. I love it. I admire it. I'm here to support you. Anything that I can do within my purview to help, I will. And just a little off the record, we don't give shout outs, but I met a little friend here. He's been waving at me every 5 minutes. So shout out to this young man here. Thank you for being here tonight and paying attention and waving at Vice Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next we have is it Brenda Tamayo. Brenda, are you here? Again, we reset the time clock for you, and if you'll just give us your name and address from the record and your comment. Welcome, and thank you for sticking it out with us tonight.
Thank you. So my name is Brenda Tamayo. I'm with Southern Homestead Soccer Academy. One of the points that we wanted to cover, we need assistance with trying to get an annual contract with the city in order to be able to put signage where we practice as well as the games. Right now, because we're renting, we're not able to put anything up. So on game days, all the teams that come down from other cities, counties have trouble finding our specific field. So that's one of the things that we needed assistance with, just an annual contract with the city for the fields.
But your immediate problem is lack of permanent signage or the ability to put out temporary signage to direct people who are coming down to play?
I think the main issue is that because Louis is renting, they're not allowing him to put anything up. So I think he was told that an annual contract would help with that, to where he can put signage up on the fields that he's running.
Okay. All right, and we've got, I know our manager and our parks director are both here and have all of your contact information, and we will see what we can resolve.
Okay,
See
yeah.
what's
Or
available.
any kind of guidance to the correct departments or process to be
Sure.
able to get that started.
Thank you.
Thank you so
for
much.
coming. All right, next we have Carlos. Carlos, is it Casido? Carlos?
My
Hi.
name is Carlos Caicedo. All right, I'm Carlos Caicedo. I'm married and a father of 2 children. Carlos Alberto, that he is 11, and Sebastian, that he is 8 years old. As a parent and I am a professional and a high school teacher, math teacher in Everglades Preparatory Academy that is located here in Homestead. As a parent and educator, I'm convinced that the obligation we have to give our little ones an integral development, which comes from home projected towards society. For this, a fundamental part is you guys, the authorities, our authorities, providing all necessary means for their development. Education, sports, and recreation are the fundamental access for these purposes. For more than 8 years, Southern Homestead Soccer Academy has been working with the purpose of developing athletes and, why not, future champions. Coach Luis is a dedicated professional who works from Sunday to Sunday for the well-being of our children and the tranquility of us, their parents. As one of the voices of the parents of more of 130 families, I want to express to you our indignation that we have for the response of your representatives towards our academy. Our academy is one of the faces of Homestead and is representing Homestead and the county and state levels. My family and I travel every weekend to different cities in Miami-Dade, Broward, also Naples and Orlando, and we proudly bear the name of our city. But that pride is overshadowed when we see tremendous differences between the scenarios that the city has assigned to us and those that other teams has as a headquarters in the rest of the cities. Worse still, we are ashamed when other teams come to visit us and see the poor conditions of our field. Now comes the time to change, and we have no lights for training at night, so we don't know what we can do. Ladies and gentlemen, what are your priorities? Aren't our children part of your priorities? Are our children fewer, or do they have fewer rights than the children of Cooper City, Hollywood, Hallandale, Kendall, Miami, Hialeah? Well, no. They are no less like or better. We demand that our children have a better treatment. We demand that our children being given a better opportunities. What percentage of the budget is allocated for sports or adaptation of parks or sports facilities? Every day the city receives more and more money for taxes of new constructions. We had one over here today. What additional money is invested in sports? I understand that is destined to secure our city with police, development of ways, But beside of that, it is not better also think about the development of children and give to the society good men, good women, good citizens? As residents and citizens of Homestead who pay our taxes, we respectfully demand a better treatment. We respectfully demand that our elected representatives, you, show that they are working for the progress of the city, but also for the future of it. And our children are the future of Homestead. I'm pretty sure but confident you will take these words. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Then we have, and excuse me if I mess up the first name, is it Eleanor Molina?
Good evening. Basically, in conclusion, we're here because we've been here for 8 years. We've won a lot of trophies. We're champions. We go everywhere, and when we're there, they know Homestead. It's ready to challenge any game, and we're gonna give them more. Like I tell the kids, I'm a father and also I'm a coach. It's a nonprofit organization, and really we're just looking for a contract, an annual contract like AYSO has, right? We're looking for an opportunity for us to show our kids that they can become professional soccer players one day, or they can be also councilmen and mayors like you are, right? And secondly, at this moment, they have only given us one soccer field. Unfortunately, right now, November 6th, when the time changes, we are not going to have any lights. And basically, we're not going to have a soccer field where to practice. They're giving us an option to practice at a baseball field that's half the size we're practicing at this moment. So basically, we're in a moment that we don't know what we're going to do. We're recommending to see if you give us an opportunity, or you can help us, so you can put lights, at least gas lights, I believe the city has, so you can put them around the field, at the field we're at right now. And really, we're looking to make an impact. We have our U15 team here. All U15, can you stand up? This team, U15 team that you see right there, this year in July, they won a championship, an international championship. Teams from everywhere came. We're talking about from Colombia, Honduras, Guatemala, and Puerto Rico. And basically, they won, and they got a full ride to go play to Spain. Basically, everything paid. And it's coming to a point that we have excellent players that could be one day stars, and we believe we should be heard as well. And that's why we're here. We really want you to help us at least get a contract like AYSO has at Sports Complex, or at least let us use their fields, because they only use it twice a week, if I'm not mistaken, and we practice 4 times a week. We play soccer, we're participating 11 months out of the year. In soccer, AYSO only does less than 2 months. They have a contract, we don't. We're always moving from field to field, and that's what basically our academy is looking for. Something more concrete, and that's why we're here. We want to know if you can help us. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. We've all heard your concerns. We understand what you need, and our staff does as well.
Okay.
And I want everyone with you to know that we have an aggressive plan to enhance our capacity and our capability for all sports.
Of course.
Certainly soccer at the forefront, but all sports. We are not unmindful, and we're not ignoring the need.
Thank you for the opportunity. But just one thing, like I said, November 6th is around the corner, and basically we're going to be left in the air. So I know you're looking into it, but really we don't have time. We've been being put to the side, and we need an answer now. That's why. When you have a chance.
Thank you.
Thank
Mayor,
you.
for me, just a question. Can staff bring us back a report, maybe to the Cal, or just maybe individually email us, how many actual soccer fields we do have in the city? How many of those are lighted for nighttime use? I've been up here 6 years. Some of you have been here for a lot longer staff-wise, and we definitely have a deficit when it comes to soccer fields. I know we got plans in the works. These folks need an immediate reaction to their needs. We can't solve it by November 6th. I understand that. I don't know if we can bring in temporary lighting from somewhere. I know there's budget issues. He's right. November 6th is coming up. They won't be able to practice. But bring us some information. How many fields we got? What do we got to do to continue to grow and prosper these young kids, give them the fields that they need. It's just been a conversation every single year, and I think everybody up here will agree with me that this is something that we really need to address. We got two large soccer organizations, AYSO and these guys, and there's a lot of kids here tonight. So there's obviously a need that we can help them with as a city. And if you can bring us that information back, give us ideas how we can do things, what do we got to do to go out there and try to get some of this stuff taken care of. I don't know, we can rent temporary lights or whatever. I don't know, maybe he mentioned that they don't use the fields every day. Maybe there's an opportunity for them to use fields. And I think somebody else talked about condition of the fields too. That's very important. If these fields aren't level and these kids are out there running around, ankles gets twisted, knees get hurt. So we need to look at those things as well. So thank you for bringing this to our attention. And I think everybody up here is in agreement that we need to address this soccer field issue. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to acknowledge Luis Hernandez for calling me pretty much daily. So for all the parents here, I want you to know that he has been working on your behalf to try to get the message through to us. Also, I want to thank Mr. Carlos Caicedo. We had a lengthy conversation. Thank you for reaching out to me. And for Senor Carlos Cano, he also reached out to me. But as I mentioned earlier, trying to catch up from bereavement, I wasn't able to connect with him. But I also want to thank Parks and Recs and our staff for really trying to come up with a solution. There have been many conversations on the subject. What can we do tonight to try to resolve their signage issue? And with regards to the lighting, is it an option where they can source the lighting and store it there while they're doing their practice? Like what? Let's start trying to talk about the solutions if we can get to it now. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Manager. Thank you.
First, I would like to say to everyone here, and much as the mayor said early on, how we're sorry it took so long for you guys to get to speak, and I count it an honor to be among so many champions. I have heard about this league, and I know you guys are really good, and I wish I could give you a field today. I'm also very impressed. I would like everyone to know how well-behaved everyone has been, because it was a long meeting. I'm sure it was very boring for you, so I'm sure that's a reflection of the discipline you learn in soccer. Your passion, everyone's passion is palpable, so it's admirable as well. With respect to the temporary signs, when we do have fields, we can certainly look at that. We can look at whether or not we can do lights. I mean, the challenge with the best fields that are being used by AYSO is that they do have to rest. But Councilman Roth, we can absolutely come back to you with a schedule and any suggestions. As the mayor pointed out, we do have a pretty aggressive plan. If we had the turf fields, we'd be in much better shape because they wouldn't have to rest like the grass fields do. But, I mean, we can look into options. It's very challenging. I know that you guys get moved around to different fields. You rent fields as they become available. They're not always the best fields, but we will look into it and do what we can. But the bottom line, I think what's really here that we all know, as you said, Councilman Roth, we need more soccer fields, and that's what we're working on trying to get done.
Is there an opportunity maybe to enter into a shorter-term contract to accommodate their needs and to address the scheduling, on a quarterly basis? So I understand AYSO has an annual contract, and that's typically how we approach these requests. But maybe because of the uniqueness of the challenges that we have with the lack of the fields and the scheduling, I understand isn't brought forward a year in advance. It is kind of seasonally on when the game's going to be played and when are they going to need to use the fields. Perhaps a quarterly contract would be in order. Is that something that staff could accommodate, and do you need direction from council in order to look into that?
We can look into all suggestions. With regard to the quarterly contract, I think you have the challenge of, I mean, right now there's 550 kids in AYSO, so if they had it for a quarter of a year and then another group for another quarter of a year, it may cause more problems and more disputes. But, as I say, any suggestion that you can come up with, we can look into.
All right, and I'm certainly not suggesting to take away from one organization that's providing services to provide to another. I think I'm trying to find a way where we can supplement the scheduling where it works for the fields can rest, but I do understand the challenges on the not having the foresight of the scheduling so that people can come to an agreement. So maybe staff, the director's hands are tied with being able to go into another year-long contract because our contracts are a year. So perhaps the solution would be to just do it quarterly and look at it from quarter to quarter, assuming that's something that the director would be, the program director, Mr. Luis Hernandez, would be willing to consider. And if not, then we'll have to go back to the drawing board. But that might be a solution, and that could help us with the liability for the lighting as well as for the signage, because once they're under the contract, then we have those protections in place for the city and liability reasons. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Fletcher.
Yeah, I'd just like to offer that, these organizations also have the opportunity to reach out to the service organizations that many of you belong to look at donations for rentals of lighting, if we were able to do that liability-wise, and look to some of our business partners throughout the city right now to ask for some of those offsets to help support these organizations. Youth sports is the cornerstone of development of leadership, the cornerstone of developing character. So everything we can do to support these young kids, and I do also appreciate the calmness here tonight. I can tell you I was squirming in my seat. So you guys did a very good job as well. I appreciate that. But let's look at some of our service organizations to maybe help identify some areas and look at our long-term plan as well with those same organizations to see how they can help us. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. All right. Next on our sign-in sheet is Laura McNaughton from the Greater Miami Youth Symphony. Hi, good evening.
Thank you so much. Oh, excuse me. My name is Laura McNaughton, and I am with the Greater Miami Youth Symphony. We are located at 5275 Sunset Drive in South Miami, Florida. The Greater Miami Youth Symphony has had a presence in Homestead since the 1990s. We're currently in 5 schools, and we have a summer program that we do here. We're very proud of the program. The 5 schools that we offer music programs, it's a multi-tiered, it's an inclusive program. We accept children from all levels. The main function of the Greater Miami Youth Symphony is we provide a free service before school, after school programs. We're very proud of it. The children do fantastic. The reason I'm here tonight is we also do a summer program here at St. John's, and that program is 75% funded, and the children don't really pay. We recently found out we lost our funding through the Children's Trust. We lost the funding, so we're here tonight to see if you can help us. As part of the City Council, we really appreciate any help you can give us. I also appreciate Council Members Fletcher's comment about other sponsorships in businesses. So we're really here to say we're invested in Homestead. The programs are 100% paid for by the Greater Miami Youth Symphony, and the funding that we get, the children receive instruments for free. And we'd really hate to see any of the programs suffer, especially in the summertime. So we're here to ask for your support. I know budgets are difficult, but anything you can provide for us, it's a $15,000 grant that we lost, and we are looking at other resources that can help us with that. But I'm here tonight to see if there's anything you can do in your budget to help us out with that. I don't know if anybody has any questions on the Greater Miami Youth Symphony.
How many children are in the program?
We have about 70 right now. In 5 different schools, all different levels. The summer program is about 50 children. We're looking at growing that and making it a full-time program. It's typically been a half-day program, but we received a lot of feedback last summer that the parents really want a full-time option. And the kids get a lot of music experience, but they also get a lot of arts and crafts experience. So we would hate for that to go away or to be impacted in any way. We're ready to keep investing in Homestead. If there's any financial means you can help us with, but we also would like to offer our services and give back to the community. If there's any way maybe we can perform, we want to have the children more involved in their performances. I think it builds self-esteem. We have great leadership programs, and that's why I'm here tonight.
You mentioned St. John's. That's the St. John's Church here in Homestead where
That's
the program
correct.
is done?
That's where the summer program is currently located. the 75% of it. So most of the children that participate with the Greater Miami Youth Symphony, everything's free. We provide snacks. In the summertime, you provide, all the meals, all the activities. You don't have to rent any instruments. So it really is a venue for the children to be able to learn music, all types of music, which is typically very expensive, provided for free. So that's why we're here, and I'm hoping that you guys can look toward your budgets and maybe there's some general funds or something you can help us with. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions, Council? Vice Mayor.
So I believe it was Councilman Roth and I, we went to visit, it was a culminating event with Greater Miami Youth Symphony at Somerset City Arts one summer. Are you still operating out of there at all, or that was just for the showcase?
We do. We have a Tuesday and Thursday program, an after-school program, so we are there.
So my question is, the funding that you've lost, the $15,000, what precipitated that?
Well, actually, it's the summer arts and science camps for kids. So it's the way the county looks at the funding. If you receive a lot of funding from the Children's Trust, they're looking at the eligibility requirements have changed. So they're considering it like double dipping. So if you're receiving a lot of funds from the Children's Trust, and this is also coming from the county, they consider it double dipping. The good part about the Children's Trust hearing this, and a lot of other organizations are having the same issue, they're being a little bit more relaxed on how we spend the money. So these grants, especially the Children's Trust, because it comes from taxpayer dollars, they're very strict on how the money is spent. It really has to be how you submit that you're going to spend it. The audits are extensive. It's very expensive because it's public money. So it's just an eligibility requirement. It's not that we didn't meet anything or something went wrong. It's just how they're going to look at, their funding a little differently.
Okay, that was very helpful. So you're reaching out now, doing your due diligence now in order to, I guess, acquire the amount of funds you need for the summer.
Right, which historically has been $15,000. But we really are looking at this. For me, it's like take something bad and take the opportunity to make it great. So now that we know we have this issue, now we know we really have to dig in. Let's figure out how to invest deeper in Homestead, how to reach other businesses and other associations that can help us, because now we have a need. And the biggest part I think about a not-for-profit is never let your dependency on grants get so high. But we are in a situation with COVID and the pandemic and job losses that it's really tough to get people to donate and to have the children pay. So we're really working hard at maintaining our scholarship levels so that we can continue to provide free music programs to children.
My last question is, for the record, can you advise which 5 schools are you operating out of?
Yes, and let me just read it to you.
I believe Gateway is one of them.
We have Gateway Environmental.
Yes.
Airbase.
Yes. Airbase.
ARC, Florida City Elementary, and Somerset.
Okay.
And then the summer camp.
Oh, great. So there's a combination of public, private, and charter.
Correct. And it's a mix. The children are different ages, different levels. It's a multi-tiered program, as all of our programs are in different schools. We do offer in some schools before programs and after school programs. And I think that that's essential because parents need that as well. And it's just so affordable. Our summer program is, for Homestead, it's 75% of it is free. But it's very affordable. We also run a different program this year it's going to be in Ponce de Leon Middle School. Mm-hmm. And that program, if you average the 6 weeks, it's about $100 a week. I mean, where are you going to find a camp for $100 a week? So it's important that we continue it. But like you said, we're tackling this early. We're not going to wait till next year. It's going to take time. And maybe we'll get lucky and raise even more funds and make it even a better experience, a bigger experience.
Okay, great. Well, I'll commit to assisting with contributions.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you,
Any
Mayor.
other questions?
Just a quick question, and I'm not passing the buck, and this is not indicating that, we're all not going to help, and I'm sure we're going to individually speak with the manager about what we can do budget-wise. But Homestead has 2 county commissioners, and they each have phenomenally obscene amounts of what's generally called slush funds for these very kinds of issues. And if you haven't, I would encourage you to reach out and dig into their pockets. Reach out to their staff as quickly as possible and put in those requests. That, I would think, all joking aside, be very, very helpful. And your issue seems to be right squarely within what those discretionary county commission funds are utilized for. But again, not passing the buck. I'm sure, our manager will be back in touch with you with what we're able to do in a short amount of time.
No, I really appreciate that because this is a learning experience for everybody. And the more information you can give us, the better. I also wanted to comment that our executive director was supposed to be here with me tonight, but she got a flat tire driving here. And I think by the time her husband came, she was a little flustered. So I did want to bring other people. But please, any recommendations? But this was our first stop. So I appreciate that. Any other questions?
Thank you. Good to have you down here again.
Thank you so much.
Sorry for the wait.
No, not at all. Thank you.
Right,
I had
thank
one
you.
quick question, sorry.
All right.
I'm so sorry. One quick question, thank you, Mayor. Have you looked into the Early Learning Coalition? Do you know if maybe any of your students would qualify to receive school readiness?
I will find out.
You can look into that. Then at least you're offsetting some of your costs for the students who qualified because that does continue through the summer and it does cover the older kids' afternoon, full-time afternoon. It doesn't for some of the charter schools, but that you would be able to do that for the publics. And I would be happy to write a letter along with you to our commissioners because I think that they would both be supportive of this and offer whatever help I can do. As you heard probably from me earlier, I know that a lot of our extracurriculars are getting taken over by tutoring, so anything that I can do to help.
Thank you so much. Like I said, it's a learning curve. I never like to admit that I know everything. So if we want to go in there and be successful, so if I could reach out to you, maybe some of you individually, and give me some advice, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty.
Mr. Kraft, did you still wish to speak? Well, while we're getting you a wireless microphone, I think we need a motion to extend the meeting to 9:30. We've exceeded our time limit.
Thank you.
All right, I think, Councilwoman, did you make the motion? All right. Seconded by Councilman Roth. All in favor? Any opposed? All right.
When you guys spoke today about the proposal for the 243 townhouses, and roughly speak 250, that's about 1,000 people. That's almost one officer. And when you add all that traffic over there when we talk about it, then we also have to take into consideration the first responders. Their response time will be impacted by it too. And it will be an inconvenience for them. And it might also be an inconvenience for the already living people here in Homestead with all that extra traffic. I think we should think about our infrastructure before we add more developments. Because if we improve our infrastructure before we add people, then we will be able to absorb them in a more better manner than in order to, so it would not be a nuisance or an obstacle. 1,000 people more is one officer more, and we only got 5 this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And thank you for hanging in there with us tonight. And quite an evening. Madam Manager, anything further?
Yes, Mayor. I do have something I'd like to mention because this meeting has great significance, as we all know, because this is Councilman Stephen Shelley's last council meeting after having served this city for the last 12 years, and he has served with honor and integrity, and I personally count it a privilege to have worked with you these past years, and I know that I speak on behalf of staff when I tell you that I'm going to miss your perspective, your leadership, and your presence on this council, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Attorney?
No, I'd just like to echo the manager's statements. You know, it's been a pleasure. It's been 12 years working with you, and you will be sorely, sorely missed. So good luck on your future endeavors. I'm sure we haven't seen the last of you, but I wanted to thank you for everything that you've done.
All right. Councilman Shelley, you're first on the list tonight, coincidentally enough.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And I don't necessarily have a farewell speech planned for tonight. I'll save whatever I decide to say at the time of the switch of the council from old to new. But I do want to. I'm very, humbled by the kind words from staff and from the city attorney, and even the Air Force Base from earlier tonight. And it does, as all of you know, there's a lot of sacrifices that go into being a council person, and so it is nice sometimes to get some validation of all that hard work and all the sacrifices that you've made, and so it does make me feel good. So I'm very humbled by that, and I appreciate those kind words. And again, I'll probably have more to say in another couple weeks, but I'm very appreciative of that tonight. So thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Avila.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to thank everyone, all of our staff and council, for sending me your sincere condolences for the loss of my father-in-law earlier this month. It's been very hard and challenging for my family. He was a huge part of our daily lives. So I really appreciate you guys all reaching out. It was the morning after our domino night. And I want to thank Jennifer Bailey for helping me put that together. It was very successful. And I look forward to bringing that event to Homestead every year and to honor him in that way, because he really enjoyed it. And it was a beautiful time for our city in one of our parks. And it was really enjoyable. So thank you so much. I want to wish everyone a very happy Halloween, a safe Halloween. I want to thank Parks and Recs for putting on the awesome Scaro van that's going to be coming up. I look forward to it. I plan to hop around to various trunk or treats that will be happening around the city, so count on me to show up to yours. And I want to announce a trunk or treat that I'm doing with Jennifer Bailey again at Roby George Park on the 30th of this month. It's Saturday. And that'll be with the Car Club community, so it'll be a safe candy giveaway and a car hangout spot for the Southwest section. So happy to partner with you on that. I also want to announce a new program that I'm putting together in my district to engage our families with the community policing department with our fantastic Homestead Police. And I'm calling it the Kitty Cop program. We will be deputizing the youngsters in our community, between 5 and 10 years old, and they'll be participating in an awareness presentation given by our community policing department. This month we'll be talking about Halloween safety, being safe when you cross the street, safe on choosing which candy you eat, and participating in a little trunk or treat as well. So that will be in Malibu Bay for our residents to enjoy on next Wednesday, the 27th. And I want to just close by saying thank you to Councilman Shelley for all your years of service to our city. Thank you for your vote of confidence last March that got me here to this point. And you've been a guiding light for me, and I look forward to reaching out if you don't mind. I know you'll be retired in a way, but I will be bothering you here and then to continue to get your guidance. So thank you so much. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Bailey?
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to say the same thing, but I'm going to call you November 6th so we can discuss some things. I want to see how I can continue the art in public place, or the artist in the spotlight. So thank you for being the type of person that you are. It's been a pleasure, and I wish you and your family all the very best, and thank you. We, along with the Southwest Advisory Committee, we always try to do something very safe and fun for the Southwest community to be able to host something at Roby George or Feckle Williams. So thank you, Councilwoman Avila. I think it is going to be an amazing event. And also, don't forget, Saturday, the 23rd, is the city event. So it'll be a drive-through, trunk or treat, and then some very scary action at the end. And parents can keep their windows rolled up if they don't want it to be too scary. So it is definitely for all ages, and I look forward to it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Roth?
Thank you, Mayor. I wasn't going to say anything about Councilman Shelley tonight because I was going to get all teary-eyed and stuff, but it's been an honor to sit up here for the last 6 years. This is not a eulogy, so I'm not going to carry on, but there's many, many great things I could say about what you've accomplished, the programs you've started in the city that will linger on as your legacy as we continue to do the business of the city and the citizens. And I'm going to probably save some things for a few weeks from now as well, but I'm honored to have served with you. Thank you for your guidance. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Fletcher?
Yes, thank you. I'll echo my colleagues' sentiments. Again, your expertise, especially when it comes to land use, you've really dove in and understood that. So I always really enjoy hearing your opinion. That helps me make up my decision a lot of times. So there will be calls, but I will also withhold for further reference in the next meeting when we have those final say goodbyes. So I appreciate it, and I have no further business, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Shelley, I'm not going to stop sobbing up here, but it's been a pleasure to work with you for the past 10 years. You are definitely first class, bar none. Oh, bar none, a lawyer, no pun intended. But you're going to be missed, your perspective. I love the fact that it's always, you're straight and narrow, no black and white, no shades of gray, and you don't get emotional about your decisions. You vote your conscience, and that's it. And I love that about you, and you can only respect that. So thank you so much for the value that you've brought to the city, and Guzman's gonna have some big shoes to fill. Thank you, Shelley. I would also like to mention, I'm excited to bring back the mammograms right here at City Hall on November 10th. We will be providing that opportunity for women to get 3D mammograms, and this is in partnership with the FIU Linda Fenner 3D mammogram bus. This is for eligible women. There is criteria, 40 and over, uninsured or underinsured, and this is me turning pain into purpose and passion. I'm a daughter on a mission to try to get women early detected in the event that they have issues with breast cancer. My mom was diagnosed at stage 4. Had she been early detected, she'd probably still be here today. So she passed at 62. My goal is to ensure that 62 women receive a mammogram. And if we get this funding from the state, if there are any women that need follow-ups and biopsies, then that money will be able to support those women. So if you would like to receive a 3D mammogram, and I've already received phone calls, there is a number that you can call to make a reservation, and that number is 305-348-7465. Again, 305-348-7465. Thank you. I have nothing further.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. First, we need to announce, I want to let the clerk know that, announce and ask her to publish that there is a vacancy on the Planning and Zoning Board that we need to fill, so that if we could announce that to fill the seat vacated by Mr. Compton, who has indicated that he does not desire to return to that position. I want to thank him for his work there. But we will need, whoever is sitting here middle of next month will need to fill that position. Before I forget and get in trouble when I get home, I have to wish my twins a happy 23rd birthday. That is today. Remember when they were 3? Yeah. So happy birthday to Max and Lizzie. And my official business is the proposed ordinance providing for a designation of funds for the Homestead Sports Complex. I think we talked about this briefly back in maybe May at a committee of the whole meeting. Kind of something to indicate our commitment and dedication, and perhaps finding a funding source to match potential grant opportunities to fund the world-class plans that I hope we can all see implemented at the sports complex. And in short, it would provide that net proceeds from the sale or lease of certain enumerated city assets would be allocated to as a funding source for the Homestead Sports Complex park plan. That would be the City Hall site. Once the debt is retired, anything above and beyond the debt retirement, monies received with respect to either the underlying 6 acres or the 300 units that are allocated to the 6 acres on the south side of Palm Drive at the end of Kingman Road that the city owns. It's a funny shaped piece of property. And the other was the mitigation property, our vast acreage south of the racetrack. You know, we've had folks during the course of the pandemic take a look at it, and even a second and third look at it. And I believe that at some point in the future, there will be some opportunity there to monetize those assets. And I would at least, you know, put this on the agenda for discussion about, you know, indicating our commitment and at least establishing some potential initial funding sources above and beyond grants and impact fees to bring the sports complex park into reality. So with that, I'd be open to any comments or discussion, concerns any of you might have. No? Councilman Roth.
I'll go. I think we had this conversation before, and we brought up allocating funds specifically to the sports complex, and I'm all for that. The problem I have is what happens to those funds when the process is complete. So if we use the City Hall example, that's not going to be sold, but you just mentioned lease in the presentation. I don't remember leasing being a part of that process, but that opens up a new way of funding a big project like this, especially if the numbers are going to come in as they're projected by the developers. But once this park is complete, and based on the projections of the numbers from the developers, that could be within a few years. Because I don't remember what it was going to cost us to build this complex. So what happens to the monies after that if it's allocated specifically for the Homestead Sports Complex? What happens after that?
It's my intention to create a fund for construction, not ongoing maintenance and operation. And clearly, the ordinance can be revoked or amended. We even have there's a built-in opportunity here to waive the impact of this ordinance from time to time. I mean, certainly, you know, let's say one of the proposers for City Hall talked in terms of a 99-year lease and potentially, let's say round numbers, $1 million a year, ongoing for 99 years. If in 5 years the park's finished, there's no need to continue to capture or sequester those funds. That's just not the intent of what's before us.
So, because my thought process on the City Hall property was to create the annuity for Parks and Rec, for police, for, you know, hiring and taking care of employees in the city. And I'm okay with allocating, you know, the first $5 million or whatever, but I want it to eventually end so that annuity is created for the city to help offset some of those expenses, along with not having to raise property taxes, because that was part of the conversation too. If we could, collect $1 million, that's 1/17 of what our tax base is already. So that would be a big number to help not diminish services, but not have to raise taxes to continuously improve, parks personnel, solid waste, infrastructure with trucks. The biggest complaint lately, as you mentioned, is reliability with trash collection, and things like that. And that's something we've got to address pretty quickly, as we just approved another 230 units that have to be serviced for trash and, all those things. So, but I'd like to see, I'm all for the sports complex. I'd like to see it be an iconic attraction for the area, attracting people. I know when I had conversations with staff, I was like, well, where's the mountain bike course? Where are some of the cool things? You put a track out there where people are going to run around it. Okay, I guess that's okay. Racquetball courts and things like that. But some of these attractions, the iconic things that will attract people to the city from outside the city, that will want to use that facility. And those funds could be used in the future for those things too. I just don't want to lock it down where it's always going to be a specific thing. And, who knows who's going to buy the mitigation land from us, or the 6 acres. And the 6 acres is actually by the school, right? That in the Park of Commerce, or just outside the Park of Commerce?
No, the 6 acres that I'm contemplating here is on the south side of Palm Drive, just to the east of Kingman Road.
Okay.
Kind of a teardrop, pie-shaped piece of property.
Yeah, just an odd-shaped thing that's...
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Part of
that's
the
my
DRI.
thought. I'm okay with doing, part of this, but I just want to make sure that eventually those funds get released. It's set up as an annuity that I think we all were in favor of doing those things and creating those new police, new parks, new staff, new trash, dump trucks, trash pickup trucks, all these different things that we know that we're lacking right now. I just don't want to have it tied up for forever and ever and ever and ever. Once this is done, then we reallocate it back to the general fund so they can take care of those things.
So, and again, certainly in the attorneys here, that's clearly, that's built into this, so that it's not locked down
So
forever by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah,
Mr.
no, I
Phil?
was just going to speak to that point. The way that it was prepared, the draft was prepared, is that the net proceeds would cease to be deposited upon the earlier of either the accumulation of $30 million or 15 years from the date of adoption, as sort of the natural sunset. If you want to give me direction to tweak that sunset provision to make a different accommodation, I'm happy to. But that's the way that it had been structured right now.
If we're going to use $30 million to build that complex, I think we need a mountain bike course out there. That's a lot of money for a park with a lot of unused type amenities. You put a track out there. We got to rethink now the soccer field. You're going to put a soccer field out there inside the track, right? Is there any lighting for that soccer field? So, those are things to think about. And that's a lot of space out there. Is that one of the spots we can consider putting in home team fields for both AYSO and the group? I didn't catch the group's name that was here, but what is it called? Southern? That's it, Southern? Southern Homestead. So, the preliminary drawings and the conceptuals are good, but now we're faced with this thing, and maybe we rethink what we do out there as far as, putting more fields. Because the fields that are out there now, what's going to happen to them? Are they going to be removed? The ones we put in 2 years ago?
No, the baseball field is going to stay. The there'll be softball fields, but there'll be soccer fields built in areas now where there aren't fields.
That's already planned for additional soccer fields?
Yes.
And they're planned to have lighting as well?
Yes.
Okay, so, but that's going to be part of the preliminary report you bring back to us of how many fields are here, what the plan is for the future, so we know what's coming, and then we can help assist these folks. Now, the sports complex is not even really scheduled at this point. So we're still talking 2, 3, 4 years down the line for this.
Actually, we hope not. We have a plan to bring to you probably, well, we'll be able to speak to it at the November CAL, but we'll probably be able to bring something to you at the December CAL. But what we're trying to do is phase one. And phase one includes one soccer field with a track around it, as well as a little amphitheater with lights. And we're working on a plan to get that started, to get the design and permitting done. But we'll bring you details at the next CAL.
And we have funding for that already? We have funding to do that construction and do all that stuff?
No, part of the plan is to bring you our plan to get funding.
Okay, okay. All right,
I don't want to give up any secrets.
No secrets, okay. Yeah, I'm okay with this as long as we have an out. I mean, $30 million is a little bit, pricey, but I mean, that takes us a long time into the future with if we even do a deal with the city hall, so. Yeah.
Actually, Councilman, when we bring the idea to you guys, it'll include a schedule, based on money that we potentially could have, and then grant funding. We have applied for a number of grants, and we'll have the timeline for those grants and the potential timeline to start actually doing so. And we want it to be sooner than a couple of years.
And has there been any conversation with private-public partnerships as far as any of the amenities out there in the lakes, some water activities, rentals, boats, kayaks, whatever?
Yes, and we'll bring you some details on that as well.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman?
Thank you. Yes, that was going to be my concern is that the out is that you have to get to 30 million or to 15 years, but we could not easily, but with a lot of work from staff, maybe gather the funding in different ways and not through the generation of the sales and the proceeds. And I believe the number is actually like 60 million to do the project, not 30. But I would prefer the language to say that, upon completion of phase 1, 2, 3, or 4, or a sooner out clause, because I don't want us to be tying these funds up if we end up building it with grant monies or other different monies that are resulting from those other than the net proceeds. So I love that we're dedicating money specifically for the sports programs and for the sports complex, but I don't like that it's going to be tied up for 15 years or that we have to reach a magic number that we may not even know we actually need. So I'm not sure how we can maybe modify it and approve it.
Sure. I want to point out one of the provision that does give the council some flexibility so that you're not wholly tied in here. It says that the provision of the sections may be waived upon the affirmative vote of 5 council members who are physically present to vote. So if at any time the council wanted to change its mind, they could reappropriate that money. You can also always repeal the ordinance.
Yeah, but I don't like the idea of having to depend on future council to retract something that protected a sports complex, a provision to fund a sports program or to waive or to undo something that was seemingly done in a positive light. Can't we just approve it based on an amended verbiage?
Of course we can. So what I'm hearing is one concern that I've heard is upon completion. And I understand this is a phased project, so I'm happy to make that amendment. If we could pin down completion of what phase or what you're looking at, and perhaps that discussion would be helpful if we did it in conjunction with the overall plan, and then I could tweak that following the cow discussion to whatever the council wants, and I could stick a finite point on what phase the council would like that to be phased out at. So at this point, without having a full understanding of how the phases will work and what will be accomplished when and how much those things cost, it's left open. If the council wants to narrow that, we can certainly do that.
Let me ask the manager. And I'm assuming we've looked at potential grant opportunities. Would it be fair to say that most, if not all, are going to require some kind of match by the city
Not all, but yes, some would.
The big
And-
grants that we know about.
Yes, and sometimes grants can be matched with other grants as well. But again, and I don't have it in front of me, or I would tell you now, when we come to you at the November CAL, we'll have the list of the grants that we have already applied for and the timing. And some of them are very big. And we'll give you the timeline of those and potentially how we could begin to use those monies for the first phase of the project.
Thank you. Any further, Councilwoman? I don't know. What are you looking for in terms of an amendment?
I think the idea is that if it's built sooner than 15 years and it costs us less than 30 million to invest into the build-out, and whatever phase we want to define as being completed, that's what would be the verbiage to get out of it.
Thank you. Anything further? Councilman Shelley.
Thank you. I guess two questions. One is, so for tonight's purposes, are you looking to actually take a vote on the resolution as presented, or is this discussion and you'll bring it back? Obviously, I won't be here, but you'll bring it back to the council for the first, or is this?
This was presented as a discussion item, so that to answer your first question, and I would, to the extent that the council has any feedback, as Councilwoman Avila does, and changes they'd like to see implemented before I bring it to you for first reading, by all means.
Okay, and that was the last question. So we're not actually voting on it tonight. This is more of just feedback so you guys can bring it back to this council for an approval. Now, as far as the substance of it goes, I remember when you proposed this originally, and to me it made sense because, no offense to staff, but, anytime money gets brought in, you don't want to go to that black hole, and then it just kind of disappears. So I understand the idea of at least earmarking it somewhere, somehow, so that it doesn't go somewhere we don't all want it to go. Whether it stays for this project or this project morphs and there's money that goes to another project, but at least it's under the council's control at all times, so that I understand. I don't know that I envision the lease, though, because Councilman Roth raised a good point, where I kind of envision this being a placeholder for, hard funds that come in a lump sum. You put them in that repository, and right now the project that the council would be looking to fund is the sports complex project, and so that would be where it would be going to. I don't know that I would have envisioned, having a cash flow or lease payments going into that fund on a reoccurring basis year in and year out. Because again, as the City Hall presenters were presenting, in my mind, I was thinking, okay, if these projects get approved and these lease payments start pouring in, what could we do with these dollars? Could they offset some improvements we wanted to make, but because of, tax limitations and not wanting to raise taxes or anything we haven't or not move forward with, those would be a perfect example of what to do with it. So I don't think I envisioned the lease payments necessarily going into this as much as I did, lump sum payments. But I do agree. I mean, as it's written, there is the ability that when that project does move forward in whatever form it does move forward, that the council at the time could say, we want to now exclude the lease payments or exclude this project or some portion, the lump sum that gets paid goes in. But so I guess that would be my only substantive comment on as it's presented at this point in time. Going forward. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, and to your point, it became, I think, as some of the proposals that are before us now were percolating through, we talked about that perhaps, using old City Hall site as an example, that there would be no sale proceeds and that it would be lease payments above and beyond the retirement of the debt. Certainly, I think at the time this was initially drafted, we weren't necessarily aware that there was at least one proposal that was talking in round numbers about $1 million a year for 99 years, and certainly there is room to make those adjustments here. But just so we're all clear, if we remove the word lease, none of the cash flow from a potential City Hall proposal would be captured in this dedicated fund. Councilman Fletcher, did you have?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So overall, I'm in favor of how this thing is written, with the exception of, an affirmative vote of five council people. I think it should be the simple majority, as normal, of who's present at the meeting. That would be my input. The idea, again, of the the regional park that the staff has come up with, again, is an outstanding look ahead to what this community really deserves. I'm not going to belabor tonight's meeting. I'm going to go ahead and call it off at that. But we have lots more discussions because that $60 million cost that we said about a year ago is probably 75 now in today's day and term. So we have a lot of work to do. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Vice Mayor. Did you want to weigh in?
Yeah, just quickly, I definitely support this Parks project. Is a long time coming from the east side, for the east side, and I'm comfortable with it as it is presented tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, Councilwoman Bailey.
I am in support as well. I think that some of the concerns with the sunsetting, unless, there was an issue with receiving a grant close to the time where that last payment was coming in, that it didn't even out. But I think that if it's 20 million that it takes to get there and it's complete, then that takes care of that issue. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Matt, do you have a clue as to where you might need to go in terms of amending the?
I think the consensus was that there'd be we'd be comfortable with language that would sunset this upon completion, and I think it's pinning down the completion date. So if this is going to come to Cal for discussion, theoretically, then perhaps at that point, when you've had that information presented to you, you could give me a little direction as to at which point you're comfortable having the completion be designated within the ordinance, and I can easily make that change between the CAO and the council meeting. That's not a problem.
Great, very good. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Vice Mayor.
With the completion component, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with a phase 1 or a phase 2, because what if after phase 1 we don't find the money for the phase 2 and 3? So with the completion date, I'm not comfortable with the phases.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Because I know you referenced a phase 1, a phase 2.
Because if we're going to say that this will cease upon completion, I think we just all need to agree on what completion looks like. If it's, and I think that once that information is presented to you, it'll help inform that discussion. And we can make that determination at the CAO. You can, after hearing all the information about how it'll be developed, I'll take whatever direction the council has then, and I'll adjust the language accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And I agree. I want to see this through. I don't want to have a park languish at phase 1 and 2 and 3 never get done while future councils go off on a spending spree with a nice stream of income. Let's bring something to completion. Thank you all. Is there anything further from council or staff? That kind of no says don't ask. All right. I heard a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? Thank you all.